Welcome to Destiny Massive Breakdowns, episode 297. I'm Legoleflash.
And I'm IllPhysics, and we're here with another deep dive into Destiny 2.
Yes, and this week we're going over all the world drop weapons that have come with Lightfall and Season of Defiance. You know, all the weapons that are like impossible to get unless they're so rare. It's so rare to get these things. It's one of the complaints that I'm seeing online right now. But we're also going over the Scout and SMG from Guardian Games. I'm so pumped to get into this all. I'm so pumped to hear about your week. And also we've got a massive two blogs, Wednesday and Thursday, and they're each ginormous.
The Wednesday TWAB now. That's what we're getting, and I'm loving it, by the way. I'm loving it.
It is a lot of info, and it's very exciting to see all the changes coming and all the in-depth communication on what's happening. I feel like we've needed some of this with the way that matchmaking has gone down. Before we get into that, just a quick reminder, the way the podcast is set up here, we go over all these weapons and how we think you should craft them from a PvP perspective. And that's like the second half of the show, but the first half of the show is kind of going over the Destiny updates and the way Destiny looks right now, but it is all very Destiny focused. So while I think you'll enjoy it all, if you just want to go to the weapons or you just want to listen to the news section, news stuff is at the beginning here, and the current state of Destiny, and then the second half is the weapon deep dive.
Exactly. I'm with it. So, how was your week, baby? How was your week? What you been getting into? We haven't caught up as much this week.
We haven't, and I've been going through it. Now, completely different sides of going through it. Very good, both sides. But my first was, after all of my griping and complaining about the current comp setup, I guess the Ascendant emblem did it for me. It was the thing that was like, I think I should go for this. Even though when I first started, it was a bunch of -5, +5, -5, plus. I was like, really? Like, how long is this going to persist? And then I think the system started seeing where I was or something like that. Because then I started actually getting games that I could compete in and had real teammates that were helping and assisting. And dude, I knocked it out in it was like 3 days. It was really fast.
Fantastic.
And it was pretty much all solo. I went my first from gold to plat, whatever the next one is, I did with a team, and then I went solo the rest of the way. And it was a blast. I actually had a lot of fun for how much complaining I did about not feeling like you're progressing in the ranks, and I do still present that critique, is that I want to feel like I'm progressing as I go higher.
Of course.
I also really enjoyed every single game I played, which I was not expecting. It was back and forth, like really close games. And my favorite, which I just got to throw it out there, and maybe no one will agree with me on this, but Endless Veil Rift.
No, I definitely agree. Yeah.
Insane. It's just nonstop, back and forth. Yep. We had one game where nobody scored, but it was still such a memorable, fun game and competitive. Me and somebody else were DMing about it on Twitter. I talked to the guy on Twitter afterwards because that's how intense the game was. We were going back and forth, and every time someone was just about to score, someone would super on the other team and prevent them, and it was just this back and forth chess match, and it was glorious. It was like what Destiny 2 competitive games were supposed to feel like. And so in that sense, I really applaud the system. It felt really fun.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, because I don't know if you remember when we first started talking about Rift in competitive, I said the exact same thing about Endless Veil in particular. You would think the way that Rift is set up and the way that Rift was designed, or the new map Disjunction was designed with Rift in mind, right? And then also Convergence being a relatively good Rift map, I would say, as well. You would think that those longer maps would play the best. Those bigger maps, those maps with quite an expanse over the middle would play the best in Rift. But to my surprise, when I first played Endless Veil, I'm like, this is crazy, and I love it.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's intense, I just gotta agree with you there, basically, and I hope that it continues to be, that's the only map that I truly enjoy Rift on. I'm not the biggest fan of how frequently Rift is coming up in competitive currently, especially with, versus what they disclosed as the kind of weighting behind Rift. I feel like it comes up just as much as Survival most times, most days. And Showdown, which is supposed to be equally weighted with Rift, is coming up just, how I would expect it versus the weighting that they disclosed. They said that, Survival would come up the most, and that the reduced weighting would be applied to both Rift and Showdown. And I feel like Rift and Survival are fairly equal, while Showdown is kind of that decreased weighting. So
I feel that.
That aside, anytime that Rift comes up on Endless Veil, I am so with it. I'm so with it. It becomes so much less about comp, and everybody's just having fun, and we're just running around the map. I feel like Titan barricades don't matter. Everybody's just moving. It's beautiful. I completely agree with you there. It's just a wild time, and that's Destiny. That's space magic right there. It's so much fun.
You nailed it. The movement was just 100%. So you don't have time to put up a barricade and sit behind it.
There's you don't have time to Fortnite build.
Bravo Bungie on that one. That feels really great. My other half of the week was guardian game stuff, and I'm going to save a lot of that because we're going to talk about that for a second here, and I want to dive into the weapons, but we're going to do that later. And all I will say is I will give this disclaimer is the new Scout Rifle I haven't felt like something was my favorite gun since Farewell, the Splicer season sign. That is how much I love this Scout Rifle, and it's not because of the typical Scout stay in the back. It's because I can play aggressively with it, and it just fits perfectly into my playstyle. So I can't wait to talk about that. That will be the last thing we cover on the podcast after the World Drop weapon. So be sure to stay for that because there is a lot to talk about, and it can do some crazy stuff.
I just want to say, and we'll keep it moving. Stat stairs. That's all I gotta say. You talking about. I mentioned it, from time to time, specifically with hand cannons. But you said, hey, this thing. I've continued to hear from everybody, yourself included. This thing feels amazing. I love it. The gunplay with it is incredible. Stat stairs. Look at it. See how it's outfitted.
That makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Range, then stability, then handling. And that handling comes into play with gun feel so much more than people give it credit for, which is why, like I said, I'm a handling guy. That's a big part of it. So
that's big. I can't wait to get into that. Okay, before I pass it off to you for more about your week, I do want to make a correction here. I do the correction sometimes at the end, but I feel like we should do it more at the beginning of the show here. From last episode, I kind of dissed Gutshot's making a comeback. I'll just say it that way. I kind of dissed Gutshot on Raconteur, the seasonal bow, because it's a precision frame. And so lightweight weapons, you are the ones that you would typically want it on so that you could do the 2 double body shot for over 100 damage each with Gutshot. On a precision, it doesn't matter because you're doing 100 anyway. The thing is, you only do over 100 on a precision if you do your full draw. The bonus to Gutshot on a precision is you can do a non-perfect draw. You can literally just ADS real quick and pull back the trigger. You don't even have to charge it. You just let it go and you'll do over 100 damage, which is a huge chunk. And is the reason why I liked Wishender, the bow, a lot. Not because of the see-through walls thing, that's cool, but it's the one bow in the game that you don't have to pre-charge. I can literally just hit fire, pull a string back, and then melee them and use it like a shotgun. You can do that with that bow. You can't do that with any other precision bow, but you can with a Gutshot on Raconteur. So thank you, Tom Cruise Missile in the DMB Discord, for pointing that out to me in the Discord podcast feedback section. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was a thing. And that's incredible because I'm going to definitely craft a bow with Gutshot just for that reason. That's very strong.
Oh man, Tom Cruise always blessing us. Appreciate you, brother.
Well, Tony, how's your week been, man?
Oh man, it's been crazy. I'll go down to the bottom of this, and I'll come back up to the top. Firing range, man. I was blessed. I was blessed on Wednesday, which is the reason why we're actually recording this, everybody, on Friday morning. We usually record it on Wednesday evening, right? For the following Saturday release. And so, I got up with Lego, of course, and he blessed me with some additional time on Friday, so we moved it a little bit so that I could be on firing range. So Cammy, cool guy, fall guy, Guy,
Fall Guy.
Fallout and Drewski, they all invited me to hang out as a guest on Firing Range podcast, the side podcast, or the like associated podcast with DPC. Is that what it is?
DCP. Yeah.
Why do I always get those mixed up in my head? I swear. DCP. And it was just such a blessing, and it was so much fun. We talked about, we just nerded out over Destiny science and space magic, and certainly like a highlight of my time here. So gratitude most definitely to those guys, Cammy, Cool Guy, Fallout, who we now call Fall Guy, and Drewski. For inviting me on. So thank you. So between that was definitely a busy part of the week, and a highlight. The cult of counterbalance is strong. I gotta say, everybody that was here for the last podcast knows exactly what I'm talking about, but that cult is strong. I swear that has probably been the most mentions that I've gotten between, podcasts, guest appearances, or Twitter, or on Twitch. People just are Tony, what's up with this counterbalance? Oh man, this counterbalance, it kind of makes sense. Nah, man, you're stupid. This counterbalance stuff doesn't work. What are you talking about, Tony? Get out of here. So it's just so much chatter with regards to counterbalance, and I kind of expected it. But the cult of counterbalance is strong, and it's been fun kind of just, theory crafting about that a little bit. So.
You know what's been so great about that is those two last things you said, is the counterbalance and the firing range. I wasn't able to get on and watch live as much, and you can't listen to it until I think Monday or something like that. It'll be out. But the one chance that I got to log in was when Tony they were like, so counterbalance on shotgun. Yeah. And what I love about it is they emphasize something that you emphasize, which you said at the beginning. You're like, I'm not sure if it's true yet. This is just a feeling that I have, and that's what I'm going off of. And there have been things in the game that don't make sense, and then you find out, oh, there's this bug, and this works this way, and you never know. And so I think it was Cammy who was like, I love, or maybe it was Fallout, that specifically was like, Tony, I love that your prerequisite for it is, this is my feeling of it, and I'm just going to say what I feel because I have a lot of experience in this area, and that's the way, to treat the game. That's how we discover new things, and so that's what I love about it.
Yeah. And, that's honestly my answer towards it. It took me a little bit off guard, because in that moment, that's when I realized, it wasn't, I didn't come prepared with that answer to start off with. I realized in that moment that I was talking to a substantially larger audience than I usually do, just across the board, whether it be podcast side or whether it be Twitch side, because there was hundreds of viewers in there, 200-300 viewers in there. In that moment, I was just like, you know what? I shouldn't focus on, the quote unquote, pseudo science, I guess, of what I think is working and what's not, because I don't want to confuse folks. I don't want to make it seem like this is definitely, because a lot of people do regard me as an authority on Destiny science and space magic at this point. So I was just like, you know what? I need to start this off by saying, hey, I don't know what's going on with this behind the scenes, and I honestly don't want to even go over what I was thinking to go over behind maybe what some of the science is. I'm just gonna say, this is what I feel. This is my experience so far. This is my experience with these particular frames of shotgun with counterbalance on them. You guys can make up your own opinions. I'd love to have this discussion further. And man, obviously if Chris Proctor, who's the, head of the weapons team at Bungie for Destiny 2, comes on, I think Fallout said something along the line of, that's the first question that we'll ask him. So, I look forward to getting some more official information on maybe whether counterbalance actually does impact the consistency of shotguns, or maybe certain shotgun frames. But yeah, it's just anecdotal. It's just anecdotal, and we're having fun with it. The cult of counterbalance is strong.
We both got our things now. If we ever have a dev on this show, if we get Merc or Chris on here one day, that you can ask him that, and I'm gonna ask him, does Zealot's Reward have some secret stability thing, and we'll get our answers. I can't wait.
No doubt. So if Merc or Chris are listening to this, just prepping you guys ahead of time. That's all. Just prepping you guys ahead of time.
And prepping my soul for the utter defeat when they come in and they're like, Zealots operates just like every other gun.
Yes.
There's no such thing as
exactly the same for counterbalance. I'm gonna be like, well, what was I feeling, man? What was I feeling?
Oh, copium is what we're feeling.
Yep, pretty much.
Hopefully not.
Pretty much.
Well, how's the rest of your week, man?
Yeah, speaking of copium, maybe it's copium-based matchmaking. We've got CBMM, connection-based matchmaking supremacy, has been like fantastic. It's been fantastic. And, just to preface it, to start, this brief conversation, it's not as if I want, I've changed my mind and I want connection-based matchmaking, or I'm advocating for it across all playlists and hey, let's get rid of skill-based matchmaking. I'm just saying that, this is the statement, and at the end of this statement is the end of the statement. I'm not alluding to anything else. Connection-based matchmaking in Supremacy has been a dream. It has been so much fun to see my bullets connect, to see consistency of my engagements. I've spoken about this before, but the reason why connection-based matchmaking supremacy is so refreshing for someone at my skill or experience level is because in my skill-based matchmaking bracket, that unique formula for why we all love PvP is like completely eroded under the compound weight of the most oppressive elements of any sandbox that we're currently in. But also the limits of where, P2P networking can take us. So, I can actually use a few different guns again. Before I was pretty much restricted. I just stopped playing skill-based matchmaking casual play to begin with. Let me just go ahead and say that. But when I did, I could pretty much only play, if I wasn't going to play Striker Titan, just put it, bluntly, if I wasn't going to play Striker Titan, then I was pretty much on my Arm Car Trip Mine build like I was in a comp game, because that was the only thing that could kind of address the barricades and the overshields and all this stuff that I could just continue to see come out of my particular bracket. I also could only use 120 hand cannons because those are the hand cannons on the maps that frequently come up that allow me to compete and to define my engagement distance better against SMGs. So, I could finally use a few different guns again and even, play with whomever I wanted to without concern that they won't have a good time due to being less experienced than me in my kind of oppressive skill-based matchmaking bracket. So
that's a big one.
Yeah,
that's a big one. I'd want to double down and say that it has been super fun for me too. I do recognize the other sides of it. For example, there's some, and I don't think you can blame this totally on CBMM because we've also got the class base, like everybody's hunter, everybody's warlock, and that whole thing going on. And the playlist is split even more because it's not replacing a current playlist. It is its own playlist additional. So the population's really split right now in every direction. And it's still been really fun, but there has been weird matchmaking stuff where like I get put in with 3 other people on the other team and then everybody leaves and it's 6v1. I don't know if you've had that happen, but it's just been like,
backfill. What? It doesn't, at least it doesn't seem like it backfills. Yeah.
So that was what I don't think it's a CBMM thing. I think it's they need to make some adjustments, either one, if this keeps going, or if they do this again, in that there needs to be a mercy rule. There needs to be some backfill because the games they never end and you'll be stomping someone forever looking for the last few players remaining. And also the matchmaking took longer than I expected for a CBMM sometimes, and I feel like that is due to the class-based and the population being split as well. Yeah. So just a few of those things that are hindering my experience, but overall, freaking having an absolute blast with the play. Like you said, like not having to play the meta. I was running around with Mylan Games the other night. I think it was Tuesday night. We were all just trying to get one Thunder Crash Titan to get its super by collecting crests, and the rest of us Strand Titans grappling onto the Thunder Crash and going to the other side of the map and seeing what chaos we could do. Like just stupid, silly stuff. And we could do that again. Like we weren't being matched in some crazy SBMM. So it's been a lot of fun for me as well.
Yeah. And folks got to remember that, it doesn't take much as far as like where you are in the skill/experience, because so much of this game, I won't go into it too deeply, but so much of what is defined by, skill in these brackets, these MMR brackets, are really just based off of the amount of experience that you have in the game. I mean, experience plays in heavily to how you build craft. and how oppressive that build crafting becomes and the choices that you make with regards to the build crafting. And then, of course, skill-based matchmaking forces you to double down on that, right? And it's just kind of a slippery slope for, the brackets just in general, or the games just in general. So, that's not to say that I ignore all the good tenets of what skill-based matchmaking brings to the game for much of the player population. I've had the privilege and perspective in the last several years hearing from the entire spectrum of player skill and experience, and I empathize. But it would be nice if many of the most vocal proponents of skill-based matching would be as invested in others having a good time as much as for themselves as well. And I've seen quite a bit of just like that self-interest, rearing its ugly head again. So arguments such as you just want to stomp noobs, or I can only improve under skill-based matchmaking, which is just so not true, don't really hold water and are often signals of pure self-interest, followed up by many like completely dismissing the valid concerns of people like me under skill-based matchmaking. So, finally, and as always, it's important for Destiny, that Destiny, I always want to make the point that it's important to me that Destiny remains for everybody, from those focused on improvement to those just interested in a good time after a hard day's work. So something I say often is, space magic is for everybody. And actually, like one last thing as well that I thought of, I'll also say is for my more experienced, higher skill players, that have been vocal currently or in the past about the ills of skill-based matchmaking. Well, now I see a lot of those folks posting videos of them following around less experienced enemy players in connection-based matchmaking as they're unaware. As you've seen these, I'm sure. They're unaware of an opposing team member right behind them. And then you see them in the post saying things like, this is not a real player. This is a bot. This is AI. Or folks posting, kill chains and CBMM, like laughing, saying these people, quote unquote, are why we have skill-based matchmaking. Like you're hurting your own cause, people. You're hurting your own cause. You're hurting your own cause. At one point you're saying, hey, it's not about me stomping noobs, and then you're just making these videos laughing that you're stomping noobs. You know? Like, please, you're hurting your cause, you're hurting my cause. Like there are valid reasons on both sides for the case for connection-based and skill-based. And briefly what I suggested just in kind of like the moment is it's just like, fine, keep quick play skill-based matchmaking, but make special events like Iron Banner, like Guardian Games, make those connection-based, right? And then, obviously we've still got a little bit of work to do in comp, even though I do feel like it's closer than most folks give it credit for. And we'll see what this new like Trials matchmaking stuff, what ends up coming out of it. But yeah, let's stop hurting our own causes. Let's try to be a little more receptive to each other's perspective, because it's toxicity on both sides.
Totally agree. If I could take away like one thing from all that, it'd be exactly what you said at the end there, that there's just been so much toxicity online to both sides in DMs and all sorts of stuff, like just people on both sides of SBMM and CBMM coming at each other for the typical things that you always see about these conversations, whenever it's usually more nuanced, and neither side is helping the case here. I think there are, like you said, I'm just going to echo what you said. There are valid concerns on both sides, and I would love to see people just have a little more grace towards each other and not be so volatile online. And I would love to see, I would take a step back from only one thing you said. You talked about the events all being connection based. I am even okay with some of them being connection and some of them being skill. Like some of that, this event is not, this event is, and just kind of like how the playlists are going to be set up now, where there's connection based and there is skill based with control. But I do want to, that leads me into another thing here, which is we haven't really got to experience that yet. I think this Guardian Games playlist is the first time this week that we've been able to really experience the connection-based matchmaking, because they released, it's not in any of our notes here with the Wednesday or Thursday TWAB, but they did release on the update, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, some hot fix patch notes that said that the Relentless playlist is now connection-based.
Oh yeah, that's
matchmaking.
right. That's
and we were like, wait, what?
So what you're telling me is what I was feeling like was skill-based matchmaking when you said it was connection-based. It was I actually felt right. Vindicated.
I know. Yeah, for real. And so we haven't really experienced it yet because it appears, they didn't come out right and say it, but they kind of did with the patch note that there had been some funny stuff going on with matchmaking. It was not pure connection based, but now for sure it is. And so this week, as of Guardian Games, now the Relentless playlist is connection based, and so is the Guardian Games playlist. So the Guardian Games is really the first time that we're feeling the connection based matchmaking, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I'm excited for, even when Guardian Games ends, to still have a playlist where I can experience that, and for the SBMM people can go play Control and still have that experience on top of comp and trials and everything else.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Cool. All right. So next up, what do we got? So we got the Wednesday TWAB, right? As it's now affectionately being called, the Wednesday TWAB. It's always wild because, again, we record on Wednesday evenings normally, people. So,
lots
like
of
the
writing,
Wednesday,
lots of notes.
Exactly, lots of notes, and the Wednesday TWAB always, in a good way, always throws a monkey's wrench in our plans because we didn't get a Wednesday TWAB last week, if I remember correctly, so we're getting it on a bi-weekly schedule, kind of, that matches our schedule for how we record and release these episodes right here.
Right.
Yep. Right. And so it just so happens. I mean, it's, in the end, it's great for you guys. The content is fresh, right? It just came out, and we're just reacting to it. But it always throws a monkey's wrench in the planning. And now I'm starting to expect it when I'm prepping. I'm just like, there could be a Wednesday TWAB right here. There could be a Wednesday TWAB. So I need to make sure that I'm looking for that. So we got a thickie, we got a Wednesday TWAB, the big thing that, initially I didn't even have it in the notes because I kind of just took it for granted because people have been talking about it online for so much, is the huge shoulder charge change, right? So we're getting a huge shoulder charge change. Now shoulder charge is going to cost 15% melee energy on activation. That means that the effective cooldown on shoulder charge as a movement tool will range from about 17 seconds at 0 strength down to around 7 seconds at 100 strength. So basically now shoulder charge is going to be, shoulder charge as a movement tool is going to be tied to the strength statistic, similar to the way that it's tied to the strength, the melee itself. A charged melee, if it actually goes off on an enemy opponent, is tied to the strength statistic. And so, what do you think about that?
Well, it really reminds me of the Shiver Strike melee on Stasis Titan. It'll operate kind of just like that. The only difference is Shiver Strike, you can just press it real fast and use half of it, kind of the way you can do a grapple now. But this one, you'll use just 15% of it instead of the half for Shiver Strike. So you can still use it as a movement tool and it'll still be pretty effective. I have seen the complaints. I understand. I think specifically for PvE probably is more so the complaints. For PvP, everyone's pretty much like, it was a free movement. There are a few people who are like, well, Warlocks get their dodge. So what? And I'm like, y'all, Warlock's dodge is not going to one-shot you out of your super. Peregrine Greave Titans will, it's a completely different
or just Void Titans in general. You get, if you hit, you suppress. Even if you don't have Peregrine Greaves, you take somebody out of your super there, There's a lot of differences between it. I mean, the fact that Icarus Dash is also, what is it? It's an aspect as well. It's an actual aspect on the actual subclass itself. And Icarus Dash is also tied to only one subclass. It's just solar. It's not across you don't have an Icarus Dash-esque mechanic on Void, Strand, etc. So
I 100% agree with you. I'm very happy about this change. And the thing that I'm most happy about out of everything is that they're doubling down on, you can still have it up a lot, down to 7 seconds. That's not including kickstart mods. That's not including anything extra you could do to it. And now you have to build into it if you want it all the time. Titans, you got to build into strength. You can't just run 100 resilience, 100 recovery, 100 discipline. You got to think about what you're doing now, because nobody was speccing into strength because it was a free, I'm just using it to get around the map all the time. Exactly. At 0 strength, it doesn't matter. So now you got to think about it, and I love that change.
Yep. And I was talking to Cammy about it on the firing range, and I was talking about how first of all, we can objectively, I hope, all agree that Titan is the strongest PvP character right now, especially Striker Titan. But Void Titan for its own is also quite strong in PvP. But that shoulder charge mobility, this is my take on it. The shoulder charge mobility goes beyond that Titan identity of of it being like that tank character that, hey, we're going to lock down this area character. We're going to defend this area, this area. That's that Titan identity. And I'm not saying that I don't love it. I love shoulder charge mobility. It is the reason why the primary reason why I do end up getting on Titan. So I'm not saying that I don't enjoy it or love it as much as anybody else who plays Titan loves it. But Titans get away with very little mobility. Let's keep that in mind. They don't have to spec in mobility. True. Warlocks don't have to spec in mobility. In fact, for the quote-unquote skating that Titans do or Warlocks do, the less mobility, the better, actually, right? And so there's a lot of hunters that are obviously strapped for stats right now because mobility means a lot to hunters for obvious reasons, but also, resilience now does. And of course, recovery means a lot to everybody. So instead of creating a dual role for mobility similar to resilience with flinch resistance, Bungie just ended up doubling down on the benefits of strength for Titan. And I just think that whole like killing two concerns with one stone is just really smart, in my opinion. I thought it was a really smart change on Bungie's part. And just like you said, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to build into it to the point where we can get that 7 seconds down even farther and continue to pretty much just, use it as for the most part, spammable movement mechanic, but it's just a mechanic now that you're going to have to be a little bit more thoughtful about your builds, and you won't be able to, get away with no strength or very little strength, right? And so, coming back around is when I was talking to Cammy said the exact same thing as I did. Now it's probably just going to end up coming from Titan's grenades, right? On Titan, I run high resilience, I run high. Recovery, and I run a high grenade, like 8 or 9 on the grenade. Now, I'm probably just going to end up pulling that grenade down to like 7 or so, 6 or 7, and then the rest is going to go back over to strength now. And so I'm going to get that strength up to like, 6, 7, 8, or 9, right?
Right, which is going to make a big difference in regards to like suppressor nades and the way that Titans can spam those more. Yep. So and it'll make a difference in kickstart mods too. Like if they're wanting to use that and they spec into melee kickstart instead of grenade kickstart, that's even less suppressor nades coming at you. True. So I think that that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I will push back a little bit on. I know it might unanimously agree on firing range. I can't remember I don't know if I tuned into that one, but Titan being the all around best. I'm not sure. Hunter and Warlock got some crazy stuff with the Stasis Warlock and Void Hunter.
I was talking about before these changes. These changes. I just think it pulls Titan. It pulls Titan into more balanced perspective with regards to its role, in the Crucible versus the others. And of course, I think that the changes that we'll be discussing with regards to Hunter and Warlock were necessary to pull them a little bit closer as well. To kind of, this is just a very tentative balancing act between the three classes at any point in time. So I think it was a good change. I think it was really smart.
I do recognize it's really strong. Like shoulder charge has been very, very strong. I can't believe people are like, I'm trying to see both sides of it, but it's kind of hard to because it was so strong.
Yeah, and I'll just double down, triple down, quadruple down on it again. Look, I'm disappointed as well, but I also understand objectively that it was necessary. But I am disappointed, first and foremost, whether it be PvP or PvE. I love the movement of shoulder charge, and I'm really happy. I was really happy when we ended up getting that movement back after it was changed a while back in order to give us no forward momentum, right? Do you remember that? When they ended up changing shoulder charge a while back before changing it back to what its current iteration is right now?
Yes.
It used to not give us any forward momentum. And so they brought it back because they knew or they saw that the community regarded it as a much beloved movement mechanic. And so we got that forward momentum back. it just, is what it is. What it is. But it was a change that was necessary, and I think that they went about it in a really smart way. That has implications well beyond what, just it being a movement mechanic. It has implications with regards to kind of creating more of a balanced Titan subclass versus the other two.
Yeah. Well, real quick, along the same lines, I don't think it's in the notes here, but because it's the Stasis Titan melee, the Shiver Strike is getting a buff, because that's the one that has never been a very free movement. It costs a lot to do it, and it got nerfed substantially from its initial release. Like, you feel so slow when using it compared to the other shoulder charges, and they are increasing the maximum thrust in flight by 16% and decreasing the maximum downward influence of gravity while in flight by 18%. So it will no longer feel, hopefully, like you have weights on you when you're using that thing. And you can actually make some very good strategical movement plays, even if you're not using it to attack. And I already have my Trials mate Merc has used this a lot I've seen him 1v3 people with it, like trap them in a corner. They put down a barricade and he like shiver strikes around it to dodge a super and then takes out the last guy. Like, those kind of plays are possible and we become more appealing now that you can move a little faster with it. So I'm looking forward to that change as well that they mentioned here.
Most definitely. And I mean, that just reminds me as well of how Shiver Strike is very similar to Icarus Dash. The actual movement of it, how you can kind of slightly change the direction of it through the movement. Is just really, really cool. So yeah, I was happy to see that change for sure, because Behemoth Stasis Titan has some of the best one of the best neutral kits. I always say it has a relatively high skill floor, and maybe that's the reason why you don't see as many people on it, is because the ease of use of it is not as high as maybe Striker, for example. But
unless you're ice crunching, unless you're the
unless you're the Fortnite builders, the premier, these are the premier Fortnite builders of competitive playlists, people.
Dude, that is, I don't mean to derail, but that is like, I want to play against more teams against that, not in general, but just for me personally, because I want to figure out how to counter it. It is the cheesiest, like, difficult thing to fight against because it's so strong. They can just tank anything. So, but yeah, that is the one thing that I'm just like, oh my gosh, please don't play that way. It's so passive and not exciting, but it is effective. But
it's effective only because most of our patience, most of our, like, everybody's patience just simply doesn't hold up under the weight of it, because that's all it is. It's a stall tactic. It's not an offensive tactic as much as it is a defensive tactic. If folks don't know what we're talking about, is, what? Just like Cammy and just like the boys, I'm not even good. You can figure it out on your own, because I honestly don't want it to become more prevalent than it is, and we're gonna move on. So we got some extra.
Yeah, we'll talk about it whenever the new zone control trials becomes an actual thing. That's when we'll address it then.
Oh boy, some aspects, some subclass aspects are gonna end up getting some extra fragments. I'm not gonna go over them all, but the two that stood out to me the most are Shatter Dive, which I've been asking about for a while. So it's great to hear that Shatter Dive is going to end up getting some additional, the Shatter Dive aspect on Stasis Hunter is going to end up getting some an extra fragment.
That's nice, yeah.
And Bastion, which I didn't necessarily think was necessary.
Yeah.
So Bastion is the Void Titan Overshield aspect. It's getting an extra fragment, and while that's cool, I guess, I'm not trying to strap people for fragments per se. I'd like to see less overshields in PvP. I've said this before.
Same.
Especially now that we have the Echo of Vigilance fragment as well, giving overshields, dishing them out on all Void subclasses. So the two suggestions that I always make are, Bastion shouldn't apply to teammates, or it shouldn't be instant. People put up a barricade and it should charge, slowly, even on initial barricade pop.
I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. That would be a nice change to see.
Yep. So I'll also just note that barricades are still a problem. They will be. But I can harp on that maybe a little bit later if it becomes relevant. I've spoken about it quite a bit.
Also, note that Trapper's Ambush is also getting an extra aspect slot. So that's kind of crazy that we get that one as well, because that's the one I use all the time.
Yeah,
it's very good for me. I don't know why it's getting it. It's very good already, but that's cool.
I love the way you said that. It's very good for me.
Yeah. Look, I can lay down. Here's the thing: using Trapper's Ambush, don't always dive bomb. Set the trap. Make yourself invis. It's a great mechanic. Or don't play the class and let me just run it and be good with it. That's fine too.
Oh man, dude. Oh man, see, this is, I don't want to derail the conversation.
Yeah.
But go ahead and start it. But Drewski's been coming through for labs like quite a bit.
Oh, nice.
And so he's been running Invis. He is so good on Invis. It's insane. I underrated how good. I knew he was good on Invis, and of course we all know Drewski is a top tier player, but Lord have mercy, he is ripping things up. He has been jump scaring me. It's been that crazy. He is literally right next to me and I have no clue. And so he jump scared me for sure on stream the other day when we were playing. We were on Endless Vale and I was at Vex Gate and he was just right there. I peek beat from Endless Gate and he's just right there. I'm not talking about right there like 10 meters in front of me, 50. I'm talking about he was literally a half meter in front of me, man.
I love that stuff. It was
crazy. I'm like, what are you doing here? There's no way I can get my shotgun out in time. He just is around the corner. I turn around the corner. He's literally touching me with the end of his shotgun, and he puts it in my forehead, and I just die, and I jump. I jump right there in the chair. I'm like, what? Why are you here? It's crazy. It's
very
crazy.
Strong.
So yeah, very strong, very strong. So, the radar manipulation, the invis is definitely still strong. Just a little bit higher of a skill floor now since the invis changes. Let's see. All right, let's keep it moving.
Yep.
Withering Blade is getting a buff. Remember I was talking about that? I feel like that's what's going to maybe put it over the top personally for me is Withering Blade, the melee on Stasis Hunter. You're getting increased projectile tracking, search range on bounce versus players by 20%. And I think there might have been like another small change to it as well. But nonetheless, that tracking that I needed that I've been talking about is necessary on Withering Blade. It's getting a little bit of that back. It's obviously not going to go back to when Stasis first dropped, but hopefully it's going to be enough that it's a little bit more viable and I can get a little bit more utility out of it because that's probably my favorite utility other than the Shatter Dive movement mechanic itself on Stasis Hunter. So glad to see that. We're getting better Spectral Blade hit detection. Finally, we've been asking about this for a while, right? Our Spectral Blades, they're whiffing and they're not connecting, and then we just end up getting shotgun meleeed by a Striker Titan in particular. We all know it, people. We all know it. Fixed an issue causing some right hand. Why
right hand? I know it's just the right hand is getting a buff on Spectral Blade.
I just read that. I was just like, did I write that incorrectly?
No, that's what it says.
Okay. So, people, this is exactly what it says. I don't know what it means, but this is what it says. Fixed an issue causing some right hand Spectral Blades attacks to fail to connect when attacking at maximum attack speed. Also, the heavy attack will now weaken targets on hit as well, just kind of like a small note. So hopefully that'll lead to some better hit detection in practice, and Spectral Blades will come back up. Because I actually love that roaming super a lot. From the day it was released.
I might start using it some too, because right now I just run Tether because there's no point in a competitive setting to run Spectral Blades. I feel like, but now that it has Weaken, that's the part that I'm interested in, not just the hit detection, but weakening, because then you could take out other supers if you get your second hit off. Like even if the first isn't enough to kill someone, if somebody's in whatever sort of resistance stuff they got going on, that second hit is they're going to be weakened, and you're going to super hit them with a more accurate touch. So that's a little exciting.
And is Weaken the one where if they end up getting hit with the Weaken, or if they end up succumbing to the Weaken, they end up putting out less damage? Is that the one?
No. It legit is you're doing more damage to them.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. Understood. Just wanted to make sure. Cool. Interesting. I think it would have been interested. What's the one where you were?
That's the Strand.
Is that Strand?
Yeah, that's the Strand. Unravel.
Unravel.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it would have been interesting too, like if the AoE from the heavy attack would make them do less damage to you, so even if there was a whiff or there was a slight disconnect, then, a shotgun melee wouldn't be the end of you, basically. You would have,
right.
Like they wouldn't be doing as much damage with that attack, allowing you to maybe try to follow it up. Yeah, that's initially what I was thinking.
That'll just be for Strand Titan still. We'll do that with their melee, I believe. And so Weaken is a 7.5% increased damage to the player. So it'll add that onto the damage that you're already doing to them from any source.
Understood. Okay. So it might just end up making. Okay, that's what you mean. Any subsequent attack will be much more effective.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Because of the Weaken. Okay, understood.
Because sometimes that attack just feels kind of weak. So
no, you're right. And you said it as well. Another reason why Spectral Blades is maybe not the competitive choice, people, is because it has such a slow recharge as well. It has a long cooldown, relative to both other Void Hunter supers such as the Deadfall and Mobius Quiver.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And then also just relative to other supers that charge up in comp in a competitive setting. Just in general, I think it's like a tier 2, or maybe I think it's like a tier 2 versus something like Well or Bubble, which is tier 5, a much faster cooldown, the fastest cooldown, and something like Blade Barrage, which is a tier 4. So you've got a huge gap. This is the meme super is what we call it in labs in our communities. Not for long. Exactly. And so I've been using it a lot. I'm back on Arc Hunter, and I've been using it a lot. And just as an alternative, something to switch things up, I've been using the quote-unquote meme super, which is Gathering Storm in PvP, which has never been, that strong since its release. Well, now it is, people. Direct impact damage versus players is going to be increased from 200 to 300. The delayed lightning strike damage versus players is going to be increased from 300 to 500. The lingering lightning tick damage versus players is going to be increased from 40 to 60. Honestly, I wish that was more. And it now also deals increased damage versus Well of Radiance and Ward of Dawn. And that's huge, especially the fact that Ward of Dawn is also weaker based on the last change that was made, within the last, month or so. So really excited to see, Gathering Storm come up in the ranks as something that, can counter, those very popular Well of Radiance, Ward of Dawn, but just making it viable in the very least. I mean, you can literally throw right now your Gathering Storm super directly at a player, and they will not die.
Yeah, I know.
It's talking crazy. About a regular player, not in super. It's crazy.
And Arc is just one of the most fun subclasses to run on Hunter, specifically because it's all about the neutral game, and it's about speed and mobility, and it has crazy implications for things like weapons with elemental capacitor, which you have talked about a lot on this show, and I always want to run it, but there's not as much of a reason to right now. And now it's like, oh, you're going to be able to shut some people down. Actually. And not just people, but supers, very effective supers that coming with some Trials or some Trials game type changes are going to be very necessary.
Most definitely. So it was a timely change in that regard. I didn't even necessarily think about that. That's a good point. Something else that's happening with regards to Arc is something I've been requesting as well, and which kind of precludes me utilizing that one aspect on Arc Hunter that gets you amplified. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but I only use 2 aspects and I never switch off of them. I never switch to the third because the third increases the chance that I'm going to get amplified, and I don't like being amplified on a Hunter because it makes it feel floaty. And the thing about Hunter is very sharp. You can make those very sharp movements and direction changes, especially if you're using strafe jump. So now the change is you won't jump as high while amplified, making you feel less floated. The specific details are the bonus jump acceleration scalar from becoming amplified is going to be reduced from 1.5 times to 1.25 times. So I think that was a very, very welcome change, at least for me, because, like I said, I play a lot of Arc Hunter whenever I do play Arc, and I do not like feeling floaty. So maybe I will try out that aspect after this.
I thought about you immediately when I read that change. I was like, that's the thing Tony was talking about. The jumping too high, because I had never really thought about that before. I guess I just do not jump a whole bunch. A lot of my weapons are more effective on the ground. And so to see, like, to hear you say that and then to see it addressed is very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I feel very listened to. I'm not gonna lie.
There's a lot recently.
It's a lot, man. Listen to those Stasis Hunter changes with regard. I spoke specifically about Shatter Dive needing an extra fragment. I spoke specifically about Withering Blade. You know, I'm not gonna toot my own horn, so we're just gonna keep it moving. All right, so Sunspots are getting buffed. Thank God. Oh my God, thank God. Another bottom tree subclass that ended up getting absolutely demolished versus the 3.0 release. So Sunspots are getting just a moderate buff, increased damage per tick from 17 to 22. Love to see it. Love to see it. Feedback Fence is back on the table, people. Do not sleep on Feedback Fence, please. That exotic is crazy and it stays underrated since literally year one. Please, I want to see more Feedback Fences. It's crazy. We're also going to see, I'm going to leave the best for last, you know, the best outside of the shoulder charge nerf, scatter grenades. I was thinking about you. Scatter grenades are getting increased tracking consistency. They're getting increased arming duration, and they're also getting a fixed bug where they were impacting the ground and detonating early. And that immediately took me back to you talking about scatter grenades and how kind of just underrated even in their current state that they are.
Yeah, and what's cool about that, I mean, what I don't like about that is it doesn't really change anything for, these changes don't really change anything for my playstyle because it mainly affects Warlocks. So the Void Warlock has an aspect, Chaos Accelerant, that when you hold the grenade and overcharge it and then throw it, it will make the sub-munitions from the scatter grenade track enemies within 5 meters, but the tracking kills the grenade. The whole, like, great thing about the grenade is you throw it and it all blows up right there, and it's instant, it's immediate, and it's very effective when I get somebody weak and they're around a corner. I just chunk it, immediate detonation, immediate kill. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, it can one-shot sometimes, but it's the immediacy and accuracy of the grenade that I really love. And so what with Warlock, if you're charging it actually makes the grenade worse. And so this fixes that problem and makes it to where Nothing Manacles, the double scatter grenade with Chaos Accelerant, you charge it and the submunition, the submunitions from the grenade are going to now have increased tracking consistency, increased arming duration, and they fixed a bug where they were just impacting the ground and not tracking the opponent. Like now it's going to turn the scatter grenade into a mine, basically, that tracks and seeks out to destroy. So I think that Nothing Manacles, we might see a rise in for Void Warlocks, because I think it's going to be very deadly. I'm a little concerned because I think the scatter grenades are very strong, but it's very specific to Warlock. You have to have an exotic. There's a lot of prerequisites, and there's some other good Warlocks exotics you probably are going to be running in its place. So you're giving up something to do it. Yeah,
and I mean, but on the flip side, I will say that Warlocks need some juice, baby.
Yeah,
exotic wise in PvP, they need some juice. Right now, we got Ophidian Aspects taking like 40% of like Warlock usage or something like that. I think I saw in like the last Trials report. We've got transversive steps, which are wonderful. I'm not knocking on any of these exotics, by the way. I'm just saying that they are high in usage. Transversives coming back into the mix quite a bit, especially with the rumors with regards to Ophidian Aspects and how they're going to change next season. So to see scatter grenades and to see Nothing Manacles potentially come and, Warlocks to get some juice, basically, I think that is just a good thing overall. It's very, just like you said, it's very specific to scatter grenades on Warlock with that aspect and Nothing Manacles. So, there's a little bit of build requirement. There's a little bit of selection requirement on which you're on. So it's not just all over the place. Yeah, I think this is a good change, and I'll just continue to say it. I'll repeat myself on this. Warlocks need the juice. They do. Yeah, and I'm happy for him. Last but not least, knockout on Titan. getting a nerf on Arc Titan, right? The lunge range is being reduced from 6.5 meters to 5.5 meters. I do believe the base melee range for characters is 4.5 meters. So, Knockout's going to give you that extra meter. And to compensate for this in PvE, just to kind of be complete with it, uncharged melee PvE damage bonus will be increased from 60% to 100%, which I think is a worthy compensation for this in PvE, and maybe helps to alleviate a little bit of the maybe a little bit of the pain. I don't think I see many PvE people talking about this, so I just wanted to mention it. I know y'all hurting from these PvP centric changes, and how they're going to end up affecting PvE. But I'm here for y'all too.
I'm so glad to see this. I am so in a game with the connections, the way that we have it, an ability that lets you hit so much further, which actually that's one thing we didn't talk about. Stasis Warlocks are getting a further increased melee range after they have to freeze someone with the melee projectile first. So like that kind of makes it's more niche. Basically, This is just an all the time 2 extra meters of melee range. That
crazy.
Was very strong.
And on top of that, it's you can actually add to that. Syntheseps add to that.
Right. Which is crazy.
That's insane. I've seen some things, bro.
I've seen some things. Yeah. I'm ready for that to go away.
Yeah. It's a little too strong as far as like a neutral, always on. It's kind of like, I compare it to the passive ability in Apex. If anybody plays Apex Legends, the FPS battle royale game, and sorry, I don't mean to get off on a tangent here, but if you're
this
playing
is good. I got a good transition after this.
Oh, perfect. If you're playing a particular character, you end up having a passive ability along with your super ability, but the passive ability it has a very low cooldown, and it's just always on for the most part outside of that very low cooldown, and that's how Knockout feels. It's just always kind of just there as a passive ability, and whenever it procs, based off of you just playing the game, it procs, and it simply enhances what a Titan is going to do in that next moment anyway. And so I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I love things that double down on the gameplay that is centric around that particular class of character. But obviously, I hope we can all agree that maybe Knockout was a little too strong, especially when it doubled up on top of melee exotics.
Yeah, well, speaking of Apex, one of my favorite classes to play is Mirage for the mental mind games of the decoy. And with the Thursday TWAB, one of the very first things here is we've got a new
transition, baby.
hunter aspect.
You hit that transition.
I know.
I see you, baby. I see you, baby. I see you. Okay. Keep it going. I don't want to distract.
The hunter aspect, Threaded Spectre, which this is so cool, y'all. I can't believe they're putting this in the game. Maybe it'll be annoying, whatever. Let us have our fun. Let's see what it's like.
Agreed.
So Hunter Threaded Spectre, activate your class ability to leave behind a decoy woven from strand matter that draws the attention of nearby combatants. And then, after taking significant damage or when combatants approach, the decoy detonates, dealing damage and releasing threadlings that seek out and attack nearby foes. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I'm scared. Anytime I see things with radar manipulation or things along that line, like you and Drewski, both of y'all scare me.
That's exactly.
Both of y'all scare me.
That's exactly where I was going with this. I don't remember if it was pre-show or before, but I was talking with Tony about. There's something that I think with this thing. Let me just cook with it and let's see, because I think that in PvP they made it very clear that it's going to look threadling like the decoy. It's not going to be like Apex or even Halo had a decoy that you could send out and it looked like your character, and when you shot at it, it kind of glitched a little bit so you knew. I think that they might, if it doesn't look like your character, which I could see them making it not look like your character. So if that's the case, it's not going to throw hardcore PvP players off that much. They'll be like, okay, that's a decoy. But if it sends out a radar,
it's got to. Come on. It's got to, right?
Oh, it's going to be so good if that's the case.
Crazy, man. That's going to be crazy. I could just see myself getting messed up that first week where it's just like, oh, why is this person just standing still, bro? That's Drewski. No, I fell for it. No.
I'm going to be on it. That sounds so good.
It'd be even crazier if there was a sound cue as well, because Apex has a lot of sound cues where it's just like that, where it's just like, got you, Obviously, that's probably not going to be in this
man.
game, but that'd be hilarious.
Dude, I would be so pumped if it did some radar manipulation, because that would pull me off of Void Hunter, because that is my main thing with Void Hunter is I like the radar manipulation. I like the mental games, and I love Strand. Strand is so much fun. I love the synergy of getting a kill with your Strand abilities, and then it makes the orb, and then you can fly across the map with the tangle and get your grenade back, and it reloads your weapons. There's just all this synergy there. Definitely. And it makes gives you all this handling. It's such a fun class to play, and to have a radar manipulation thing on top of the normal gameplay loop that you have with it makes me extremely excited.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. That's what's up. I'm gonna let you rock. Yeah, you just keep it flowing. Warlock and Titan. We'll be coming in there.
So next up, we got Warlock with the new aspect, the Wanderer. This lets your tangles you throw attached to enemies. It like floats around. The way they describe it is it seeks out your target, and then it attaches to them and detonates in a suspending burst. And then threadling final blows will create a tangle as well. So it feels interesting. It feels, I was on DCP last night and I was talking with Watts, who plays a lot of Warlock, and she was talking about how it reminds her more of the child that you send out from Void Warlock. And I was like, I could see that, because it kind of seeks out your opponent, and that is what the Wanderer kind of feels like. You throw it out, and it will seek out the opponent and then latch onto them and then suspend them. So maybe a more immediate function than the child. The child sits there and drains you of your life. Wow, that sounds like Parenthood. No, I'm just kidding. Parenthood isn't that bad. But no.
Dark humor. Oh, God.
No, the child goes out and it drains the enemy consistently until you destroy it. The Wanderer will immediately attach and suspend, it sounds like, which is, I think that's cool that it's works different, but it builds into all of the Strand synergy. Tony, do you think anything else you want to say about that one?
No, I was looking through the Strand fragments for Warlock. Let me see. While you have Wolf of Mail, weapon, final blows, create a tangle. Yeah. I was just thinking, man, is there any, by creating this additional tangle, right? Let me just double check. Yeah, threadling, final blows, create a tangle. Yeah, by creating this additional tangle, I was just thinking, oh man, is there some sort of synergy with the fragments that, is going to end up interacting with this? I didn't see anything obvious with it, so now we can keep it moving.
Well, you could, isn't there, for sure, there was one thing that I was saying, because the Warlock grenade that lets you eat a grenade, and then you can suspend people when you get precision kills after that could be strong pair, because you're suspending them with the Wanderer as well, and so you could have a whole build that is just built around suspension and suspending people, when normally you would be more about threadlings, you could be a little more about the suspend, and I think that could be a cool thing to build into it as well. Yeah. Fair enough. Just another side. The other one, and I'm equally pumped for the Warlock one, is probably my least interested one. I really like the Hunter one, and I really like this Titan one. The Fletchet Storm. While sliding, you activate your charge melee ability to leap into the air, knocking nearby targets away and dealing damage. Then there's an alternative mode where when you're airborne and you activate the charge melee, again, it will launch a cluster of damaging, unraveling projectiles, and repeatedly activating your melee will chain additional throws. So there's two different parts to it. The slide push, and I am really hoping for the kind of push we had whenever Stasis was introduced with the Shiver Strike, you could just send people flying across the map. I don't think it'll be that strong, but man, I loved that.
You never know. Those physics, those in-game physics, you would often... not often, but occasionally you would just straight up die to the in-game physics off of that Shiver Strike. And while I do not think that that's something that is sustainable to stick around, that should be in the game, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't mind if this dropped spicy and that happened again.
Oh, yeah. I'm here for it, because that's not a very thought highly of PvP class right now. Everybody kind of knows that there's not much. Like, yes, you can make it work, but there isn't a lot there compared to the other classes that help you immediately. And this gives a lot more options to the Strand Titan to just be able to do some more stuff, pushing people back, having a ranged melee. And it says, it uses the words like very strong pushback, and it uses the words of heavily damaging projectile from the airborne one that it does, and you have 3 of these available to you, so you can at any given time knock someone back up to 3 times. That would be so funny if it worked like far enough away where a roaming super like is coming at you like a blade dancer, and you just keep knocking them back every time they approach.
Why would you say blade dancer, man? Look, blade dancer, arch strider, we need some love, baby. We don't need that. Talk about something else. Talk about Shapebinder or something like that, man.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna. I think a super is gonna kill you, but it'd be funny to see this kind of stuff. You never know. Well,
yeah, you never
knocking
know.
knocking a super off the map would be hilarious.
I do agree. Those kind of like whimsical mechanics that end up adding some levity to the gameplay loop. Yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, most definitely. So I guess we'll see, and we'll see what type of cooldown the melees have like back to back as well. That was the first thing that I was thinking of. But you're absolutely right. Like Strand Titan needs a little bit of spice to it, because when you think of Hunter Strand, you're thinking, man, we're just grappling all over the place. We're just grappling, right? That's the draw, the first thing you think of. And then Warlock, you're thinking, oh man, Threadlings. Threadlings go crazy on Warlock Strand. Crazy. But when I think of like Strand Titan, I'm just like, what am I doing there again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just talking about like, maybe not so much like, just I wouldn't even necessarily say like ease of use or ease of access,
maybe even
those
identity.
Terms. Yeah, just identity. Thank you. Identity. Yeah. And so we'll see what this ends up doing to the identity or for the identity of Strand Titan. But I do definitely agree that it needed a little bit more like, juice or at the very least a little bit more clarification on what I'm supposed to be doing on it so that I do actually hop on it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got some more. This is kicking off the Thursday 12. We already got through the Wednesday one, and we got through that was a good bit of the Thursday one too. There's 2 quick like economy change things here. One is this is important for Trials of Osiris because light level is enabled in Trials of Osiris, and for next season there is no increase in light level into season 21. Pinnacle cap remains the same, which means if you grind it out this season and you get to pinnacle cap, you can go into Trials of Osiris next season without any handicap, without any detriment. And the sandbox will operate the way it's supposed to be. Thank you. I want to say like thank the traveler, but I'm not sure that's applicable anymore with the way the season has turned out. but I'm very thankful that these changes have come into effect.
No doubt. And they said as well that trials should be coming sooner in the season simply because there's no increase to the pinnacle cap, correct?
Right. Yeah. I think it's like right away even. I need to go back and check that, but it'll happen very soon after the launch of the season. Which, by the way, this isn't a part of the TWAB, but seasonal armor and stuff looks hella cool. It looks very interesting, and this isn't a lore podcast or anything. I'm just very hyped for the season. I'm very happy to be a Destiny player right now.
Same. I'm right there with you. I mean, they continue to draw me as a PvP player. They continue to draw me into the lore. In the game, they continue to draw me into the lore, and I'm really excited to see what's going on with Sloane. Just drop a little teaser there. It's not a spoiler or anything. I mean, Destiny,
and her arm, what is going on?
I just want to see what's going on. Yeah.
The PvE guys were excited. Podcast versus enemies. I saw them tweeting about it, like, oh, this is gonna be spicy PvE episode. I'm kind of jealous, but I'm excited about all this PvP stuff too. Speaking of, we got exotic focusing coming up. We hinted at that last time. I think we talked about it a little bit, but they clarified some things. Exotics that not just that you focus, but they kind of mentioned like across the board should have more consistently higher stats with more frequent spikes come season 21. You can expect around mid 60s as the average. So that is better than I expected. I thought it would be very bungified here and have it like be low stat drops for a lot of this stuff, but I'm glad to see them respecting our resources and that hopefully it will have more spikes and more useful stuff. And then on top of that, they have these focusing tiers and they explain that a little bit more. Tier 1 is the random focus. You pick one and they list out the costs here. 1 exotic engram, 30,000 glimmer, and 1 ascendant shard. You just must have the exotics unlocked for that category. So like if you're wanting a Lightfall exotic, you have to have all the Lightfall exotics acquired from the Lost Sectors or from the public event now, the Lightfall public event. You have to have had it from those sources, and then you can go and kind of focus them to get the role that you wanted. And then there's tier 2, which is the specific focusing of one of them. So if you're looking for, better stompies or something like that, you can focus a stompies for your hunter, and it will cost you 1 exotic engram, 60,000 glimmer, 3 ascendant shards, and 1 exotic cipher, which is that material that you can get like 1 from Zur every week. There's like a quest for it. So it's very expensive, but you can focus that specific thing, which we have not had, I think, in the entirety of Destiny 2.
Yeah, I don't know why you gotta say stompies, man. Like, you ain't have to say stompies. That's the one exotic next season that I have a lot of anxiety around.
Oh man, we'll see what happens.
First, you say Arc Strider, like you say the Arc Strider is gonna kill something, but bro, I don't know if it's gonna kill anything. The hit detection on Arc Strider need to be looked at next. Now you say stompies, man. Oh, you just put me into a mood, man. Let's go on.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go deeper into that mood here because we're gonna talk about deep side stuff real quick, and this is only applicable, I think, for PvP players, because I know this is more of a PvE thing, but I bring it up because I know there are a lot of PvP players that don't interact with the raid as much, like myself. And so when we get a few of those weapons, we're like, I really want to craft that. I think right now I'm 1 off from the sidearm, crafting that one from the raid. And it's like, but now next season, there's a new currency, Deep Sight Harmonizer, which can be slotted on the mod slot or a mod-like slot, and when you do that, you can extract a deep sight from any normal gun that needs a deep sight pattern. The qualifications are it must not have had a pattern extracted already, so it can't be like a deep sight weapon and you acquire it and then you use it again. No, you can only do it once from a weapon, and it can't be used on weapons you bought from the chest. It has to be a random drop that you get it from. Okay. So you can't like just farm the chest for a bunch of those weapons and then deep sight them. That's not how it works. So that will be very nice for players who don't, do a ton of raiding. You can kind of fill out some of the ones you're missing. The one problem here, and this is the big controversy, which, we're a PvP podcast, we're not going to get too much into it, but is that the only way to get these deep sight harmonizers is 3 from the free season pass and 3 from the paid season pass, and that's it. Wow. There's no way to get it in game.
Oh, I can already see that being a touchy subject. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so that part is they said currently, like in its initial launch, so maybe they will bring more out later, but it feels a lot worse than when they first introduced like transmog and being able to buy from 8-1 and do the bounties and you get 10 a season or something like that you can focus, and they gave us like 30 to use right away, 10 on each character. And so you had a lot of options for your appearance. Here you don't. You just get the 6 from the season pass, and that's it. There's no other way to earn them in game, and that is a little sketchy. Like, I get it that you don't want free deep sights just everywhere all the time, but at least a way to get it outside the season pass would be reasonable, I feel like.
Yeah, and I could just see the paid season pass for the additional 3. I could see that being kind of like a point of contention as well. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. But I mean, they did say that they're going to provide additional options in the future for, the additional deep sight harmonizers, but
well, hopefully, I want to point out they didn't specifically, they just said at initial launch. They didn't say they were adding more later. They just said at initial launch, so we don't know. Like, maybe they will. I would hope they will, given player feedback.
So, Lego, we're right back to Arc Strider and Stompies, bro. I'm just going to add that to the list.
I just had to rip the Band-Aid off. That's the last thing.
Can you assure me, Lego, that for the rest of the podcast, we're on an up? We're on an uptrend.
Here, I'll give you this. I'm at the very end of the Band-Aid, and there's that last bit where there's like a little bit of hair attached to it, and you gotta just so I'm gonna pull it off.
All right,
off real quick. Trials of Osiris. They mentioned there's rewards and all that stuff, but first let me finish the Band-Aid. There was in the labs that they did the experimental week where it's the matchmaking we're going to have next season. There was a matchmaking error with lobby balancing, and so I owe you Physics and Apology. Maybe this isn't a Band-Aid. I don't know. Maybe this is ointment on the Band-Aid or on the wound. But I owe you an apology because on the last podcast, I said that there isn't lobby balancing in Trials. And while that's half correct, there has not been lobby balancing. There was lobby balancing active on error on Bungie's part for the last Trials lab. It was meant as a means for them to track skill in Trials for the first time. Like they say, we've never tracked it even before. It's just been card-based, and now they're like, okay, because they're trying to see the effects of the practice pool and to make sure skill is lining up there, we're tracking skill in Trials now, but it was accidentally applied to lobby balancing. Yes, so if you were... My takeaway is if you were very low skill or higher skill, you probably had a bad time. And I say lower skill because if you're very low skill, it was matching you with the highest people in the lobby, and then you're playing against 3 medium skilled players. That doesn't sound like a good time for anyone.
Yeah. It's like one of the downsides that have been mentioned frequently about lobby balancing in general, right? You know, if, people would say, hey, I'm in this lobby and I'm either getting matched with good players against another team, and that team is maybe not as good, and the good players just like popping off, basically. They're popping off, and I'm not able to get kills. So I'm not dying as much, but I'm not able to get kills. But then on the downside, on the flip side, it's just we're getting matched, the same exact situation on my team, but we're getting matched against a really good team, and I'm just dying all the time. So maybe the high skill player at the top of the lobby with lobby balancing ends up just, either going even or slightly above it. They're doing just fine for the most part because the enemy team is pretty much matched at their skill level, but I'm just dying right out of spawn. And so, it's just important for folks to remember that in lobby balancing, it's not the best situation a lot of times for the high skill player, and for different reasons, it's not the best situation for the low experience or low skill player either. And so it's nice to see that Bungie came out with this comm, being a little bit more transparent about what was going on, because a lot of us definitely felt like this was happening, like there was something with lobby balancing going on in that in Trials during that trial period.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the last bit of the Band-Aid here is, while they figured out the problem and it will be fixed for the launch of this new matchmaking in Season 21, it will not be fixed for the next labs that happens, not this weekend, but next weekend. So, unfortunately, if you play during the next labs weekend, and you're playing solo specifically and not with a team, just expect there to be heavy lobby balancing and it not be a good representation of the way the real Trials matchmaking will look come Season 21.
Yeah. And so just like you said, it's probably just best at that point just to kind of play as a team if possible,
And with the new matchmaking system, I want to say that it will pretty much always be better to play with a team at this point with the pure connection-based matchmaking, because you're just going to get randoms. Like, there's no telling your success rate is going to be so up and down, because unless you are just S tier the best, it's going to be very up and down given who Bungie decides to match you with at random. So it will always be better to play with a team in this new system rather than place your bet on luck. So just something to keep in mind. That said, I don't think the last labs was a good representation for solo players of what it's going to feel like, and neither will this next one. And that is the point that I wanted to drive home, is just that feeling of slight disappointment. I know I'm going to talk in a second about how Bungie got the information they needed from these labs, but unfortunately, it just sucks for me as a player and other solo players and the community as a whole to experience this system and have this negative connotation for the future of Trials when it's not going to be this way. It's a wrong representation. Like, all online, and on Reddit and everywhere I read is like, connection-based matchmaking sucks. Why did you do this, Bungie? When it's not what it's going to look like. So I'm disappointed in that, but I am hopeful for what it will look like in Season 21, and I really hope that we get to see that soon. With all that, though, that was a bunch of negative stuff. That is the Band-Aid fully ripped off.
We're good now. We're pushing through, people.
Yeah. So with all that ripped off, here are some good things that happened. One, last labs, they also had, if you went flawless, you could still play on that 7-win card. No, like flawless pool existed, but flawless pool doesn't exist. It's just if you have if you went flawless and then stay on a 7-win card at any point, you'll be given and have a chance at adept rewards whenever you get a win. So the point is here, you never have to reset. Even if you're helping friends, it's connection based. It's not card based. You can stay on your 7-win, help your friend, and get extra adepts while you're in there. There's no reason to ever leave or reset.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think that this is a change, or this is an aspect of this new Trials matchmaking that people maybe don't give enough credit to, basically.
Agreed.
Because a lot of times I want to stay on that 7 and get my adept loot, right? But I'm helping out a friend or I'm helping out a viewer from the stream, and I have to ensure that I reset because I don't want, I don't want us to go against like 7-win, and flawless gamers basically while we're just trying to get through a singular card, So yeah, this is a beautiful change.
Yeah, I really like and they're going to double down later 2 more times on not resetting your card. And I love that the mindset isn't just reset. It's just play the card out, just have a good time, see how it goes for you. Whether you're going into the practice pool or not, whether you're playing to get flawless, and you get flawless, you just stay there. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect your games. Or if you don't go flawless, like you can go to the practice pool, you can get that rep, and they're going to double down on that in a second. And that is the second part to this, actually, is the practice pool. That was the main information I think Bungie seems to have been looking for, because they say the practice pool was working great and they've got all the information they needed from the way the last labs went, and they've already implemented changes for season 21 where they can protect people from getting stomped even better, and they can accurately predict who is stomping and needs to be put in the challenger pool by a degree of like 1%. It was like 5%. Now it's like 1%. They've narrowed down. There will be nobody accidentally put in the wrong pools. And players who are in that practice pool will slowly be playing against each other more accurately. So it sounds like a good time for those just wanting to earn some rep, or flip side, just wanting to practice for Trials, which is something me and Tony were talking about pre-show that I kind of wanted to emphasize here, that I was kind of wrong whenever I first talked about the practice pool. I kind of poked fun at it for being like the kiddie pool, and I didn't mean that in a negative sense. I was just, you have to call it that because it's kind of funny when you first hear about it, but you really can't joke about it that way because it's going to be a practice pool. They call it practice for a reason, because when you're in the practice pool, they double down in this blog saying that it's not just for players who are bad at the game. It's for players who, you're average at the game and you just want to play a Trials experience against players at your skill level. You can keep playing with that loss on your card when you're not flawless and play against other people who have a loss on their card and are at your skill level for that weekend. And it resets every weekend for your skill level. So say you're having an off week or you're trying a new build or whatever, it will just keep you at that level and playing against other people that are at your level, and you can practice there. That's why it's called the practice pool. And I don't feel like I really respected that fully the last time we talked about it, that it will be a good place to practice for Trials.
Yeah. And I've long talked about how I just want more players, especially players that don't frequent the Trials playlist, want more players just to get in there and just enjoy themselves for the gameplay loop. For what I love about Trials, what most people that play Trials every weekend love about Trials as a game mode. Now, we're going to speak very soon about how that game mode is going to change slightly, shifting from Elimination to, Dominion. But I think that the practice pool and getting folks in there where the stakes aren't as high because you don't have to win 7 games in a row. It's just, you're just feeling out the game and trying to just win that one game and being mindful and present in that one game. I think that's a good thing for the overall playlist health, in the long term, right?
Yeah.
Something else that I'll say that's kind of just like a note on the side is that they said that they weren't introducing skill-based matchmaking in Trials. But yet the practice pool to some degree, even though, your skill is going to be, whatever metric or MMR they are for the, they have for you for the skill for that weekend is going to be reset every weekend. it is still some degree of skill-based matchmaking in the practice pool.
That's true.
For each individual, on a weekly basis. So something to kind of, just note there. I'm not saying that there wasn't transparency or whatnot. It isn't traditional skill-based matchmaking, but there is some semblance of it there. And it'll just be interesting to see how that plays out, especially for the solo player in the practice pool.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious to see how it plays out. And the main thing I'm glad there is they got the resources that they need to make the practice pool really work really well for those players that want to experience it. Because I feel like those are the people that I do want to keep in Trials. I want them to get the practice to improve so that they can go into reset their card and make a go at Flawless. That sounds like a great system.
Exactly. I've long spoken about, getting more people addicted to the improvement cycle, to the improvement grind. And I think that's something that is good for closing some of these vast skill gaps that we have in PvP across the game, experience and skill gaps. I think this is a good avenue to get people addicted to that cycle. And I'll just keep on repeating it over and over again, the fact that it's not for everybody, right? I don't, Destiny is for everyone. Space Magic is for everyone, including the folks who expressly are not here to improve. But for the folks that are, I want there to be those avenues, those playlists that provide that degree of engagement for them as well, where they have fun, in that cycle.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, I'm going to fly through the rest of this to the game type change because I think that's the big thing. Speaking of getting more people in it, they're changing the quest to start playing Trials. They're simplifying it to play more 3v3, more comp, and then they're rewarding them for an Astral Horizon when they finish it, which is a great reward because right now there's nothing. You have to do a bunch to even get into Trials and you don't even get anything for doing it. So that's great incentive. And then they're changing the passages for when you play Trials to Passage of Wealth. We already talked about it, getting 2 losses. Not yet, not in the labs, but next season. And they added info that it only applies to your first Flawless. So after you've been Flawless, if you're trying to grind for some new rewards from the Lighthouse, you've only got 1 Flawless one Forgiveness after you've gone Flawless already.
Interesting. Okay, so that's a good note.
It kind of further emphasizes not resetting to me. You could make that grind again if you want to, or you could just keep your card and keep grinding Adepts. Why not? So there's that. And then also Passage of Mercy is getting that change where you're not getting more rep at 3, 5, 7 wins. It's just, you can just stay at 7 wins. So not resetting your card, even more doubling down on. And then for the rewards, for Flawless, we kind of skipped over it, but they added in a ton of cosmetics, and you ship Ghost, Sparrow, Shader, all this stuff that they added in. And on Twitter, one of the devs came out and said that all the ship, Ghost, and Sparrow will have a glow effect if you've been Flawless that weekend. Not just the armor, but all the stuff. And it's retroactive for the old ships. And so they've added it onto the old gear. So I'm very excited to see all that.
Very cool. Very cool. Did they say anything on Twitter or otherwise about a new Trials armor set? Because weren't we supposed to get one of those per year? Yeah. Usually it comes the season after the big DLC release, correct?
This would be the season, and they did say previously that there would be one a year. So I do expect there to be armor. What I think, I know people are worried about this, but I think they're just holding because they got to have something to show when it launches. And I think they're kind of holding out on showing us that because they showed us a lot today.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm with you. We have some new weapons that are coming back as well into the mix. I think we've got the Messenger returning. It's a high impact pulse that's kinetic. Could we see Cascade Point on that?
That's what I'm thinking, because we got Desperado on it. What if we went the other way? Because Desperado's been nerfed a little bit from its initial conception, and what if we got Cascade Point, which doesn't do any kind of damage reduction. It just gives you the faster fire rate, but it's for a shorter window, and you have to use it real tight. Would be kind of cool to see on the Messenger. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That's for sure. We've got another new a brand new weapon coming through. Gosh. Is that correct?
Yes, and adaptive
Lego has
art
thoughts.
glaive.
That's what the notes say, everybody. Lego has thoughts.
A bunch of people are disappointed in this, and even as a glaive player, it's called Unexpected Resurgent. Even I am a little disappointed. I was really, really hoping this would be a lightweight glaive, like the way the the Hunter exotic glaive is a faster firing glaive, and it's just an adaptive. And to see adaptive, I was like, we got 4 adaptive glaives already. What are they gonna? They have to do something very specific to this glaive if it's going to shine, and I'm just not sure unless it's got some magic juice. Which, to give them credit,
it's going to be
Exalted
perks,
Truth feels amazing. Like, that's an incredible hand cannon, and so did the Immortal. So all the new Trials weapons have been banger. So I got to give them credit. I can't just knock it initially, but I am just a little, after using the Hunter exotic glaive for a little while and how good that is, I'm just a little disappointed that this isn't that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, other than the new emblem that they announced. I did not write it down in the notes here, but I'm very excited about a new emblem that is coming, that you have to never trail in Trials all the way to the end of the card. So you have to be ahead in every round to get this emblem once you go flawless. And it looks awesome. It looks
really cool.
It kind of looks like a scarab in there, which reminds me of the D1 scarab emblem. So it just has all the feels for me. I'm definitely going to be going for that.
Yeah, and to kind of help people understand the stakes, this is the way that it was described to me. To help people understand the stakes, you can never go down the first round.
Yeah,
you can never let the enemy team. Now, of course, you could go up by 1 and then lose 2 rounds, and of course that would disqualify you as well. But you literally can never go down that first round either, because that's automatically 0-1, and you would lose your chance at that emblem. So, just to kind of give folks the stakes, oftentimes I'm just messing around that first round or just feeling it out. So even for somebody like me, at a high experience level, I'm gonna be on the game. I'm going to be on the game.
Going for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I love. And they changed Gilded Flawless too along with this too. I'm not going to go through all the lists of everything, but you don't have to carry people anymore. It's more about getting the medals. It's more about winning without losing. So I'm excited to see those changes and to see Gilded Flawless mean a little bit more about what it is to play Trials rather than just carry people. And is anybody available who hasn't been following me and see what I can do for you? Just play with people because you want to play with people rather than because you have to.
And you're just completing objectives that are just intrinsic to playing the playlist to begin with. Yeah, I'm with it. Definitely. And then we're getting the game type change, right? We're shifting from elimination to dominion. So what's that about?
So they list some reasons here. I'm curious to hear your thoughts because I got thoughts. But the reason that they're changing it to the zone control dominion type game type is they list 5 reasons here. I'll read those off because I think they're important and they helped me kind of wrap my mind around why they're doing this. 1, it offers a choice between elimination or playing the objective. You don't have to cap the zone, you can get the kills. 2, on average, games are 15% faster than normal, so it's not such a time sink for normal players to get in there and grind their way to try and get flawless, and then they don't reset. 15% faster is pretty nice. Objective prompts more variety. So via the stats that they see behind the scenes somehow, which I don't understand that because I feel like Bubble and Well would just be all over the place. But they say that they see more variety on those weekends. Number 4, it prompts a healthier sandbox for a variety of weapons and subclasses. Same thing I just said. I don't really understand that. And then 5, and this is the one that really gets me, is provides more balancing levers to change the gameplay experience. And they give an example of like Burnout. They're spawning Tumbler and Yard on East and West, and all the zones or caps in the middle, rather than right now you kind of spawn on diagonally opposite sides. It's just going to be straight, simple middle, and they can do stuff like that on every map as it comes out. So I feel like it hasn't changed me. I still love Elim. Like, that is my game mode I have loved in this game for so long. I know it is stagnant in play. I just like that anything can happen in it. So that's my take, is I like Elim for that reason. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you think of this change.
It's a lot. It's a lot. First, a zone cap. I'm hesitant to say it provides more variety to the gameplay, because everybody's just going to rush towards the zone cap. And if people are playing passive in Elim, they're just going to play passive on the point itself as well. So although it provides that initial movement, it's kind of like the movement is front-ended versus back-ended. And what I mean by that is if people are going to play passive, they're going to play passive. It's just going to be that the movement is going to be front-ended towards the cap point, and then they're going to play passive on the cap point. Whereas right now, the passivity yields a lot of times people are playing passive until the zone cap comes up. At the end, just a regular elim zone cap, just because it's a stalemate until the end of the round, right? And they want to push things along. That's when the movement happens. It happens at the end when the zone finally appears, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about the variety. I mean, they both have their pros and cons, and when that movement actually happens versus when people tend to end up being passive. What I like about elim is that because a zone doesn't appear initially, then engagements can happen anywhere until that happens, right?
Exactly.
It can happen anywhere until that happens.
Even passive play could be in a spot that you weren't expecting, and you have to learn how to counter it in a different way. Exactly. It just creates more variety in the play. Yes, it can be staler, and yes, there are hundreds of complaints. Even talking to Destiny Massive Breakdown community a lot this week about it, I am in the minority when it comes to this opinion. I think we both are, with a lot of those players who feel that they don't like the staleness of elimination. Like, after playing it for so many years, they want something different and they want more proactive gameplay. But I'm with you. I think it provides more variety to just have the engagements happen anywhere, and they could happen at the beginning, the end of the round. You adjust per game, and the more variety, the better to me.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, too. I do actually think that elimination is a little stale for Trials. It's not as if I don't enjoy it, because I do. I'm that classic legacy Destiny 1, Destiny 2 Trials player. So I'm right there with you in that regard, that sentiment. On the flip side, I do think that the sandboxes are increasingly passive and or oppressive with a lot of the gameplay mechanics, weapons that we have now, with the skill of the average player as well, and how effectively they wield those weapons and those mechanics, with the knowledge that comes from just, this game being out forever, and everybody understands what the most oppressive, elements are for eliminating an opponent as quickly and as easily as possible. Elimination, I do feel like is gotten a little worn, right? But there's two sides to the coin. When we're talking about folks that are less experienced and folks that want kind of an easier understanding of what am I supposed to do in this playlist, in this game at any point in time, having the zone cap be a straightforward answer to that question, right, does kind of just increase that understanding for the average player on any of the objective, of any one game and what's gonna happen. Elim, where there's no objective and it's just Slayer, that variety obviously is going to create a skill gap of understanding about what the objective is at any point in time, right?
Which is kind of worrisome too, because it makes the skill gap, it expands it even higher, having that objective and another source. And so it's like, now it's going to set its connection base. So you're going to face all types of players, and it's going to make the players who are good, really good, because they know how to play that objective.
Specifically. But I mean, this is just we could really go down the rabbit hole on this, but at the very least, it's one objective. Right. And so how folks that are less experienced approach that skill gap and move through that skill gap should be more discernible. It should be more straightforward to understand the next step on the progress or the improvement cycle tree, to reach that next level of how to play this particular mode, because it's all about just capping that zone first and foremost, right? That's how most people are playing it. They're not playing it like a lot of us, myself included, that I still just play zone cap just like elimination, straightforward for the most part. Of course, I keep in mind that zone cap is happening, but I play it like elimination. I'm just trying to move around the map and have those engagements in a variety of different ways in a variety of different locations. So it'll be interesting. In a lot of ways, it is going to be more one-dimensional. I do think it's going to be more one-dimensional, and I hesitate to say that we're going to see variety in weapons and particularly subclasses, especially if things like Gathering Storm or I guess there's some small nuance changes that happen with Chaos Reach as well, particularly basically if our neutralizer supers aren't brought into play in a way that they counter the wells and the bubbles, the proclivity, you know, that people have for those subclasses in playing specifically zone control, you know. In elimination, where it's not about the zone, people are just running. I mean, people are still going to be running those supers, most definitely, especially in that mindset looking forward to that capture zone that comes up at the end of the round if nothing happens, right? If it's a stalemate. But you do see, I feel like, a much more, a variety of supers, So, you know, you've got one end. The pro is that I feel like the mode itself is just much more digestible and folks understand the step-by-step of what they need to do to get better at that mode because it's all about capping that zone. But on the flip side of that, I do see, I can't see it as being anything less than one-dimensional and less variety in the gameplay elements that we see, weapons, mechanics, subclasses, you know, choices people make down that road, but also just the play styles as well. So...
yeah, I feel you. Well, I think that pretty much covers all the TWABs that we got. The multiple Wednesday, Thursday TWABs. That's a lot, y'all. That's a lot of stuff. But I'm very excited to get into these weapons still. Oh, man, I'm so excited. Okay, because me and Tony, y'all should hear us. Before the show, we start talking about something. We're like, oh, wait, no, we got to save it.
We got to stop. We got to stop. We got to save it, you know, because it's not even about saving it so much like we won't go. But it's like if we'll go down the rabbit hole twice, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. We're like, wait, it does what? Okay, so before we get to that, though, we don't have any new patrons this week, but I do want to thank all of you for supporting the show, especially our sponsor guardians who give on a massive level every month. We've got ASCII and Monk, Binary Wolf, Black Hammer Tech, Bryce Cerrone, Deacon, Moonlight, Shazzle, This Moment, Zen SoCal, Sylv, and A Modern Viking. Sometimes when I read these, I have to say them in Kit's voice, the previous host of the show.
Yeah.
Just because that's all I hear in my head.
Yeah. This spiel has been the spiel for so long, right?
I know.
So if you listen to the show often enough, you just hear Kit's voice. I completely agree with that. If you'd like to support the show, please visit, speaking of spiels, if you'd like to support the show, please visit DestinyMassiveBreakdowns.com and click on the link to Patreon. You'll get access to a members only channel in the Discord, behind the scenes info, and input on the future of the show, plus access to our legendary annual merch drop. As a reminder, you can also earn a shout out by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Ratings are great, but the reviews really help us to spread the word and get more ears tuned in every week. Now, keep in mind as well that if you want to give general feedback regarding the show, particularly constructive feedback on how to continue to improve upon what we do, we have a ton of outlets outside of reviews, such as the Destiny Massive Breakdowns Discord or our personal socials like Twitter. We take all of it to heart because we always want to give you all the best show possible every week. Finally, thanks to the Destiny Massive Breakdowns editors, Nettie Smith and Autodidactos, for their hard work on this show, and also Podcast vs. Enemies, the Destiny PvE show that explains it all. If you think we sound great, know that it's because of them.
Yeah, okay, y'all. It's time. It's time for the main talk.
Yeah, baby.
I mean, I say main talk. That whole thing was the main talk. We got so much stuff coming, but we got to talk weapons. We got world drops for Lightfall and Season of Defiance, and then we'll talk about Guardian games as well.
Yeah, the spicy Guardian game stuff, that comes at the end, because that Scout Rifle, that's something different. That thing built so diffy. Yeah.
I'm excited about these weapons too. There's a few in here that I've been waiting to get, and it's very hard to get these weapons. I will say right off the bat, I mentioned at the beginning, but they are extremely hard to get. But during Guardian games, they do come from dunking your medals in the thing. I don't know what to call it. In the stadium, you dunk your medals. And sometimes you get world drops, so look out for these as we talk about it. I'm not sure what all ones drop in there because it's so hard. There's no way to farm these. There's no way to focus these. So be on the lookout for them as you get them, and check out for these perks and these rolls. First off, a lot of them have this origin trait field tested, so I want to talk about that real quick because it's very insane. Shout out to D2 Clarity on Twitter, who does a ton of the math that's found on light.gg and D2 Foundry and everywhere. They did testing on this, and it was so in depth that it's an entire paragraph. That's how crazy this perk is. There's so many different layers to it. All I will say is, when you are damaging a target or you kill a target, you get points towards stacks of a stat bonus. So the stat bonus that it gives you is a minor increase to range, stability, handling, and reload speed. Sounds great. Who doesn't love those things? The thing is it takes so many hits to get up to a stack that you might as well just kill the enemy. And if you kill them and get a few hits in, it basically gives you one stack. So one stack is +3 range, +5 reload speed, and an unknown amount of handling and stability. I'm not sure about the rest. They don't specify. They've just tested the range and reload speed. And then it maxes out at about 20 range and 55 reload speed. So I'd expect about the same, like 20 stability handling as well, which that's a hefty amount. But to get to max stats in the Crucible, you would have to get like 15 to 20 kills in a row without dying to get that max stats. It's cool that that's possible. It's just very unlikely that you would get to that thing. But if you're a pro player out there and you're wanting a weapon that will stack up its range, which is very hard to do to get extra range on weapons, this could get up to that point if you're slaying out, and the perk never goes away until you die. So as long as you stay alive, it will just keep adding stacks to your weapon. And even if you're not getting kills, if you're just getting hits on the enemy, it's adding to those stacks as well. It takes a very long time to add up, but it is possible. So wanted to let y'all know about that trait.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And if you want to see the details, go check out D2 Clarity. It's a mouthful. It's just a ton of detail about the way that it works.
Yeah, and they put in a lot of work with that stuff too. So if you're feeling mighty generous, then definitely feel free to hit them up on their Ko-fi as well, and support them there. But yeah, they're putting in massive amounts of work in all this testing and helping us to understand these perks and these weapons a lot better through those deep dives into the stats themselves.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's get into this first weapon. We got Battle Scar, the lightweight kinetic pulse rifle, 450 RPM, 26.4 crit, 16 to the body. It's a 0.87 second TTK with 88% headshots required against 10 Resil. That's a 2.5 burst of the pulse rifle. Stats-wise, it's pretty much the worst at everything, which I was not expecting given the hype of this thing, but the hype comes from PvE and the perks, I think. But it's got the worst range at 28, the worst stability at 44 for its archetype, the worst handling, aim assist, and recoil direction. They're just not as bad as the range and stability are like really bad. So basically, if you're using this, you're using it for the perks.
Gotcha. It's the worst for its archetype or for its subfamily?
Yes. Subfamily of the archetype for lightweights.
Gotcha. Understood.
So, a few perks to go over here before we give our rolls. It does have some damage perks: Head Seeker, High Impact Reserves, and Multi-Kill Clip. Multi-Kill Clip will take you down just one bullet, so you'll still have, like, multi-clip times 1 I'm talking, so you'll still have to fire that third burst, but it does take down your time to kill to 0.8. But I wanted to mention that if you have Surge times 3 on, so you pick up an orb and then you get a kill and get a kill and reload real quick, you will have a 2 burst up to 7 Resil. That's a 0.53 second time to kill. All you had to do is pick up an orb and get a kill. That's not bad.
Yeah.
And then if you say you're not running orbs, say you're a solar class and you get Radiant and have multi-kill clip times 1, you can 2 burst any Resil for 0.53 seconds. So that is pretty good.
Yeah, I could see why you ended up shifting over to multi-kill clip for your roll down the bottom. We'll talk about it in a second, of course.
Yeah,
but that's definitely interesting, and it's interesting as well that when kill clip ended up getting nerfed, the kill clip perk separate to multi-kill clip people, multi-kill clip didn't take any nerf, right? So it just brought those two a little bit closer together. So
right, then it has High Impact Reserves, which is interesting to see High Impact Reserves on a primary, but it's also the most complicated perk to estimate how much damage it's doing because there's so many variables. It's not enough to get the 2 bursts even at max, but if you stack a ton of stuff, Radiant, Surge times 3, then the high end of High Impact Reserves might be able to do that for you. It's just, you got to do so much. It's not really worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
Last one is Head Seeker, which we talked about on the Dawning weapons, the lightweight pulse there. It's not enough to me to truly make a difference. It might make your 0.87 second standard TTK slightly better, but it's not going to actually improve your TTK. It's just going to make it easier to get your shots with some body shots off. The thing that I always have to remind myself, and maybe this is where you'll push back on me with my build, is that it does increase your aim assist as well from your body shots to help you secure the kill. And I'm always forgetting about that because I don't use pulse rifles very much. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it does like help with that consistency. My thing with Headseeker is I'm more inclined to use it on like aggressive or high impact pulses.
Right.
You know, to just secure that two burst. If I'm having to shoot like 3 bursts, then a lot of times, you know, I mean, sometimes the math works out and you'll see it, you know, when we end up going through the spreadsheet or whatnot. But, you know, just as a general rule of thumb, Headseeker on aggressives and high impacts is more so, you know, where I'm leaning whenever I'm looking at that Headseeker.
100% agree. Last other perk here is it does have kinetic tremors, which is the PvE one everyone's going for, which does sustain kinetic damage to a target, emits a shockwave that damages nearby enemies. But that shockwave only does 20.33 damage in the Crucible, so it's not a lot. Maybe in PvE you might want that explosion, but just a heads up, it's not a ton in PvP.
Yeah, it requires 12 successive hits from pulse rifles to activate, but just like, you know, Lego said, it's 20.33 damage in the Crucible, just not much. Kinetic tremors seems like at this moment, I mean, it could change, but it doesn't seem like it's going to, but it seems like kinetic tremors is more so, you know, a PvE centric perk. And, you know, that's why we were excited when it came out and the Gunsmith, I think, the Gunsmith was selling like a kinetic tremors God roll or very close to God roll, and everybody was like super hype about it. And I think the hype was definitely valid, but specifically for PvE, of course.
Yes. So my role on this thing, I'm not a multi-kill clip guy typically, but there are a few weapons, specifically lightweight weapons, that have hooked me in with it because I love it on the Farewell. And I think I'm going to like it here too, but with the help of the Surge mod, because I like running that quite frequently. I'm always dodging on a hunter. I'm always making an orb. If I get a kill from a dodge, make an orb, that's a 2 burst up to the 7 Resil like I talked about, and that's good enough for me. 7 Resil is pretty good for a 2 burst. So I'm going to be running Arrowhead Break with a counterbalance mod. I want to get that on pulse rifles. I love the recoil and my stability on it, so get that recoil direction to a nice 99. Run accurized rounds, a stability masterwork, perpetual motion, and multi-kill clip. That all really helps me with my stability up to 74, and it'll give me 96 handling once I've got perpetual motion times 2 rolling. So I like that idea. You can do Headseeker if you don't like the kill clip roll, but I don't feel like it's worth it on the lightweight, as we've said here.
Gotcha. And you said I've got a question and then a point before I just make my role. But are lightweights, you know, there are those certain subfamilies that maybe don't have the best TTK across, you know, versus other subfamilies of pulse rifle or hand cannon or whatever else. Usually I feel like it's the lighter impact or the less impact subfamilies, but are lightweight pulse rifles one of those subfamilies that, oh man, it doesn't have like the craziest TTK, but they're very sensitive to damage perks? Is this one of those subfamilies? Is it just this gun that, you know, you're kind of advocating more so for, you know, a damage perk on? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And no, I don't think that it is. I think in general, here's the deal. I have a history with lightweight pulses because on my search for the Rumble grind, I was looking for the fastest weapon to get me around the map fastest for those Rumble games, and I experimented a lot with the lightweight archetype. They did buff it after that a little bit. To me, the buff wasn't enough to bump the damage to make it competitive. It kind of sits in the middle. Like rapid fires are a 0.8 TTK, adaptives are a 0.93, and this is a 0.87. So it's right in the middle if you're hitting with an 88% accuracy. And I just don't really care for the gun, and I don't feel like you even with the damage perk, you really have to push it. Like I was saying with multi-kill clip, maybe if you actually had legit kill clip, it would make a difference, but because it's multi-kill clip and you're usually just getting 1 kill, it's just not really pushing much unless you grab an orb or unless you have Radiant. It doesn't really push it over the edge.
Gotcha. Understood. Okay. The second point I'll make for the audience is keep in mind that like I don't run surge mods. Like I double down on my gunplay as much as possible. So I run like, holster mods and then maybe like a better already or recuperation or something like that for the instance that maybe I might pick up an orb. But in Supremacy, there are orbs everywhere. Because, people are picking up those crests. Right. And when you pick up the crests in Supremacy, the more crests you pick up, the more super energy you end up getting from those crests, right? And so people's supers are coming up much more often in Supremacy than it would just a standard playlist, right? Like Quick Play or whatever else. So you're getting a lot of orbs. So people, like, definitely invest in, with regards to your builds, definitely invest in surges specifically for Supremacy, because even me, I might give up like a holster or something just because orbs are everywhere. Orbs are everywhere in Supremacy. So it's kind of a point I wanted to make and something that I thought about after playing the first day. And then the last thing that I'll say is, man, you just keep on sidestepping my boy Keep Away. You just keep sidestepping my boy Keep Away. You ain't said nothing about it on this gun, bro.
Here's
nothing
the thing, though.
I ain't heard you say it.
Keep Away is, yes, better accuracy cone is always better. It's just so minimal at the 5%, and I like stability so much. And the stability and range is so bad on this gun that without perpetual motion, you're at 54 stability on this thing if you're running arrowhead break and you don't have steady rounds. And that is just... That's with a stability masterwork. Like if I don't have a stability masterwork, that's 44 stability on a thing that bounces when you shoot it. And I just I have to spec into stability. That's the only reason why. And I do see the appeal. Like if you ran Keep Away and Headseeker or Keep Away and like Eye of the Storm, like just double down all the accuracy perks you can, I could see the benefit of that if you don't mind the stability. But man, I don't know. I really feel the lack. I really feel the bounce in a pulse rifle for whatever reason. I know there's some players out there that they get their 2 bursts off all the time. They're super accurate. But for me on a controller, even with how sticky fusion rifles are for me, I just can't get pulse rifles to stick the way other people can.
Gotcha. And you know what? We were talking about this on Twitter, right? The fact that on the show, we need to make sure that we're making more of a distinction, like being clear about the fact that you're on controller and I'm on MNK. And sometimes, those experiences differ to the point where it's going to end up playing into what perks we select. That's a very obvious concept, but I'm just saying that need to make that clear that I'm on MNK, Lego's on controller. So while stability might matter a little bit more to him on this thing, my first thought on MNK and my experience with pulse rifles, which are my second most popular like archetype of weapon behind hand cannons. I use a decent amount of pulse rifles in my time. I'm looking at that Keep Away. I'm looking at range. I mean, Keep Away also, what I'm thinking is that I've got 28 range at base, right? Then I end up putting on, I guess like arrowhead break, but I'd probably still put on arrowhead break. If I didn't care about the handling, maybe I'd put on extended barrel to give me that plus 10 recoil direction, but arrowhead break is just too juicy at plus 30 recoil direction. We're talking about 20 additional to get it up to 84 just at base after applying that arrowhead break. And then I apply the steady rounds. Steady rounds ends up taking 5 range, so now we're down to 23 range, but Keep Away ends up giving back 10 range. So you're at the plus 5 once you equip, Keep Away. So that's something else besides that accuracy cone narrowing by 5% that Keep Away ends up giving you. And Keep Away is fantastic. I'll say it again on those longer range weapons like your scouts, your pulses, your snipers, your 120 hand cannon, RPM and hand cannons such as Round Robin. So it's just become a much beloved perk by me. I love Keep Away, and I just try to put it on anything that I can on MNK. Of course, that takes you down to like 23 range. Keep Away ends up pulling you up to 33 range. I would definitely put a range masterwork on at that point, get it up to 43 range, 59 stability, and then that's before applying whatever I apply on the end here. So if I was going to apply something at that point, I might end up applying Headseeker, honestly, just because I get that bump to aim assist out at that range, right? So if I hit a body shot because, that cone is super narrow because, I don't have a lot of range on it at 43 range, well, then, it bumps my aim assist a little bit to help me to register a headshot out of that range with head seekers. So, just something to think about for my M&K folks. But of course, I haven't used this role, a similar role, or even this pulse rifle very often. So it's something I would have to feel out a little bit more in game.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that insight. And I do like your role. I think what it comes down to for me, the more I think about this and hear your idea for it, is that I have found that I don't challenge. I don't know if this is SBMM that has taught me this, but I don't challenge lanes anymore. I'm a close to mid-range player, and I operate in there because if I challenge a lane, I'm getting picked by a sniper. The snipers are too good that I face for me to challenge them with this.
Absolutely.
So I like whatever my primary is to be either a cleanup tool or a fast, close to medium range thing. And so that's why I think I'm doubling down so hard on stability.
That's a beautiful point. Honestly, that's a beautiful, beautiful point because we don't challenge. I'm the same way. We don't challenge long range. We don't like the only ranges like mid range is dead right now in our skill based matchmaking bracket. I'm just saying, like mid range is dead with a hand cannon. Just mid-range, that's why I only use 120s for the most part in anything where I'm facing folks that are around my skill level, is because you're going to get picked off by a sniper or it's going to be a no time to explain and they're almost always going to two burst you, so you better have something on that's equivalent or just don't peek that lane. So then I'm trying to get in close range, right? But in close range, close to entry level mid-range, you're facing immortals. You're facing SMGs with rangefinder in particular. That's why I say, mid-range is kind of dead. If I'm going to challenge, I'm going to challenge at the latter end of mid-range to the entry range of long range. Hopefully folks know what I'm talking about here. Can see what I'm talking about here. And that's with like a don't say it. Hopefully y'all understand. I'm going to be using like a 120. I'm going to slide a lane. I'm going to try to hit him in the head once, and I'm sliding directly out of that lane with that 120, and I'm immediately making a rotation to try to get a different position so that that sniper, for example, doesn't expect me to peek that angle again. I peek from a different angle and try to finish them off before they fully recover or fully know where I am to the point where they're not picking me. A really good example of this, by the way, is if you start at, I believe it's A-Dom side, A Dominion, A capture point, whatever you want to call it, on Widow's Court. Everybody should know what I'm talking about at that point. You start back there, you run past the bungalow, that little, like hut right there, and you go to the top of the stairs. You're at the top of the stairs at ADOM, right? There's almost always going to be a sniper right there behind that wall coming out of the church at CDOM, right? There's almost always going to be a sniper right there. I slide that. I try to ping it once, ping him in the head once, and I immediately slide right back out. I try not to keep my head level at, the same head level, basically. I try not to just be standing up there. I slide in, try to ping through that slide, just hit somebody in the head once with my 120, and then I slide out, basically. And that's basically just to get a little bit of damage, to try to multitask, get a little bit of damage, but also to get that information so that I know where I'm going to route next to get a little bit closer. But
that's good.
You're right. We're not taking that fight at our skill-based matchmaking because everybody just hits heads or everybody just hits two bursts. And then, obviously we could talk about as well the fact that we don't know who's on Cronus or I didn't even want to mention it. I didn't even want to mention it. You know what I'm saying? But who is cheating and who is not, basically. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we can't challenge mid-range, but we do have a weapon here next that will challenge the close range very well.
Yeah.
The Sununa SI6 or S16. I actually can't tell by the writing here, but
Same.
adaptive 3-burst stasis sidearm. So we've got a few, 3-burst sidearms in the game, but this one comes with some pretty crazy perks. It's a 491 RPM, 32 crit, 20 to the body. That's a 0.73 second TTK with only 71% headshots required at 10 resil. So that's a 2.5 burst. So no matter what, you're having to get those at least fire 3 bursts, and halfway through that third burst you will kill at 10 resil.
That's interesting. Honestly, I didn't realize it was 71%. I know that I always come back around to, and that figure that you've always put in my head about lightweights at 60% headshots required. I didn't know that this particular subfamily was 71%, which is not too far beyond the 60% of lightweights. So interesting.
And what's cool about that is that it actually at 5 resil has a breaking point where you can 2-burst if you are 100% accurate, which I did. I don't think I realized that you could 2-burst at any resil just at base. So this is one of those archetypes that you push it a little bit over and you're 2-bursting a lot easier. So let's get into it. The stats here, for the most part, are pretty middle of the road. Average range of 30 for the sub-archetype, but higher stability at 82. It does have a poor recoil direction of 84. That's the lowest in class, which hurts a little bit because this is a burst sidearm. So you have to take into consideration that recoil direction. And then it has a lower aim assist of 67 as well. So not the best there, but it does have some pretty cool perks. So I'll talk about the normal stuff first, then I'll get into the weird.
Here we go.
Okay, so normal stuff. We got Head Seeker. Head Seeker only lasts, remember that it's been reworked, the aim assist, but also it only lasts 0.55 seconds, but in between bursts is about 0.5 seconds, the 2 bursts. So if you hit a body shot, crit, it should be active for the whole thing. I didn't think about that at first when I was writing this out, and then I was going back and forth with the Destiny Master Breakdown community, and they were like, no, you're good. On something just a little bit slower than this, it wouldn't work, but that 491 RPM is just enough for Head Seeker to work all the way through. So what that does is it lets you do enough damage to 2-burst up to 5 resil while hitting a body shot on your first shot. So if you have a Head Seeker version of this, you can aim kind of at just below the neck instead of at the head and let the burst guide you up. You get the extra aim assist from Head Seeker and the extra crit damage, and you can still do the 2-burst up to 5 resil.
I want this. I mean, I'm going to tell you why at the end I want this. Like, there's some things specifically that you talked about, but it's a 2-burst up to 5 resilience.
Yep.
You know, I didn't realize that before coming into this conversation. And I immediately started doubling down even more on a couple of the roles that we're going to talk about at the end. So
I'm excited to see it.
I'm listening.
Well, I do want to mention Surge mods again. This is an archetype you can push a little bit further because it has a breaking point. So at 5 resil, because it has that breaking point, if you just pick up an orb and you have a Surge
stacks
times 2,
stacks.
Then you've got 200.14 damage for your 2-burst. Any resil. That's really good. You have to hit all your crits, but really good time to kill value there. That's that 0.55 second. Or wait, no, sorry, I got mixed up there. That is, do I have this written down, the 2-burst? I do not, but it is very fast. I'll look at it in just a second. Okay. Then we've also got, there it is. I have it under Golden Tricorn. 0.5 seconds, yeah. So that's 0.5 seconds is fast, y'all. So if you can hit those, very good. The other standard perk is Golden Tricorn. That is also a 2-burst, but you can hit a 1 body and 5 crit and still get the 2-burst at any resil. So very good. That's just with a kill. Remember, Golden Tricorn lasts for 7 seconds after you get the kill. So it's like a better version of Rampage. And then there's also some crazy damage stacking thing. I'm not going to get too much into it, but a 1-burst is possible if you surge stack, bubble well, all the crazy stuff, or use Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves. There are ways to do some crazy things.
There are means to do this, people.
Yes. I thought the 1-burst was dead because there was a 3-burst that could do it with Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves in a different way, but this one can do it, Golden Tricorn, just fine.
Okay, so that's one of the ways is Golden Tricorn times 2, Surge times 3, and then bubble/well.
Yep.
1 burst up to 4 resilience, and then if you end up swapping the bubble for Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves, you can still get it to work. 1 burst up to any resilience. Okay.
I will say that method though is near impossible because Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves is tricky. I don't know how else to say it. You have to swap to it while you're weak to get the damage buff. So it's stacks
something
on
that would
anything,
happen. It's something that would happen organically, not something that you would necessarily like set up for. So you'd be more so surprised than anything else.
I will say I played with a head. I can't believe I have a Head Seeker roll and I have a Golden Tricorn roll, and I was playing with my Head Seeker roll with Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves. very deadly. It was very fun. So, okay, because it's a 35% damage buff on top if you're weak and you swap to it, and you've got Head Seeker with the extra aim assist and everything.
You just great. Burn through. Yeah.
Last thing with the damage stuff. I'll go ahead and say the other perks before I get super weird. It does have Headstone. Just want to remind y'all, great perk for keeping reses down. And then it's got Gutshot Straight, which Gutshot's, I feel like it's making a comeback.
Yeah.
It's complicated here, but I still think I'd recommend no, but there were some people in the Massive Breakdowns community that were excited about it, and I had to mention it because it's an all body shot 3 burst. So you have to 3 burst anyway. You get only halfway through the 3rd burst if you're hitting crits, but if you're fighting Tin Resil, you have to you have to shoot that 3rd shot no matter what. Gutshot makes it to where you shoot this 3rd shot, and if you hit all body shots the entire time, you will still get the kill at any Resil 0.87 seconds. That's gross.
Yeah, it is. I think we were talking about this pre-show. It is.
yeah. Tony was a little upset pre-show.
I was a little bit upset,
like,
because 0.87 is... Go ahead.
It's the same TTK if you hit every crit and fire at the maximum speed on a normal hand cannon, adaptive hand cannon. That's ridiculous.
Well, I tell you, 140 hand cannons taking L's yet again, baby. You're taking L's yet again.
Keep in mind, it does not have good range, and boosting your range does not help you much on sidearms anymore unless you just have crazy zoom. So just keep that in mind. You have to use this at a pretty closed-in range. With all that in mind, and with the Gutshot mentioned, I have to throw out there, you could get Gutshot Straight and Slick Draw by chance on this thing, and that would just be hilarious, because the handling actually sucks on this weapon. So let's see, base handling of 49. That's not good. And if you're specking out for stability, you're not going to have much handling anyway. So if you get the Gutshot Straight Slick Draw, I'm just saying, you might want to try it. 0.87 seconds, all body shots. You don't have to hit the headshots anyway. Just go all out.
Boy, that's crazy. And keep in mind that Slick Draw, like the actual perk itself, does give this weapon, it goes from 49 handling to 100. So you will have 100 handling if you have Slick Draw on this weapon.
Yeah. And talking about Gutshot, I am actually interested in an under pressure Gutshot roll, because under pressure, as you get down in the mag, is closing your accuracy cone. Gutshot expands it, so they kind of go against each other. And regardless of Gutshot, reticle friction is not affected by Gutshot. So controllers kind of have a little bit of an upper hand with the perk, and then under pressure is adding even more to that. So I think that is a combo worth checking out if you get it by chance. And if I were to spec this thing out, and rolling that, I would run extended barrel, ricochet rounds, under pressure Gutshot with a range masterwork. Just let under pressure do all the stability work, and maybe a targeting mod. So at the end of the mag, I would have like 100 handling, 55 range, 92 stability, 94 recoil direction, and I'd be able to 3 burst body shot. That's disgusting. That sounds gross. Yeah,
that's contraband. I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the category. That's contraband.
The one, like the standard roll, if you're not crazy like me, you could go fluted barrel, up that handling a bit, stability masterwork, and then under pressure with head seeker, maybe high cal rounds in there for just pelting them a little bit more, getting that recoil, and then with a counterbalance mod. So that brings you up to, at the end of the mag, 97 stability with up, and then 99 recoil direction. Sounds the head seeker roll is pretty solid. I used it. It felt good, very solid, nothing fancy, but good old-fashioned sidearm.
Okay. I would like to keep in mind as well that I assume that you're using extended barrel to on that previous roll that you were talking about, to give yourself some additional range, but also improve that recoil direction. Is that correct?
Yes, to improve the recoil direction, and since under pressure at the end of the mag bumps your stability so much, I was kind of leaning into that rather than boosting stability. So that's why I kind of spec'd into range a little bit more in that one. And because, okay, this isn't like I'm getting into you got shotgun and counterbalance. I got range and aim assist. I am always pushing my range so that my aim assist works better for me within those
Okay.
ranges. And a lot of people go against that. But if I'm losing so much aim assist with gut shot, I like pushing the range on that. I don't know. It's just this weird thing for me. I just feel like it feels better. Maybe it's a ghost story, but it just feels good to me to do that. So that's why I push the range.
There's definitely some valid, Destiny science underpinning for that. So I could kind of connect some dots with that more so than counterbalance, of course. I guess the only note that I had for that, even though I see more of your point about extended barrel, is that if you equip arrowhead break, versus extended barrel, you're only losing 0.35 meters. I think exactly 0.35 meters on ADS damage fall off start.
Point.
The fact that people don't realize it, zoom matters so much more on a sidearm versus actually increasing that range that's on the stat bar. You could max out. Let me see. Hold on for a second. Let me max out the range on this with full bore, then say high cal or ricochet rounds, doesn't matter, and then a range masterwork. We're talking about 16 meters. We're not talking about any of the perks on the end. We're talking about 16 meters, and you're giving up a lot, in order to equip that full bore and a range masterwork to a degree as well. But especially that full bore where you lose 10 stability and 5 handling, both of which are fairly important on a sidearm, especially that stability. So you end up getting 16 meters with that versus the base of 15.31. 15 meters, basically. You're getting an extra meter for speccing into range fully, basically. An extra meter. And so while I won't discredit the benefits of maybe an extra meter, stacking into range so heavily when stability, handling matter, arguably a little bit more on a sidearm, I wouldn't necessarily, range is not the first thing on my mind, basically, when I'm talking about a sidearm. So it's just something for folks to keep in mind. Increasing the range on that stat bar doesn't do as much as you might think it does on a sidearm versus other weapons.
That's a very good point. And honestly, with this roll, you're lucky to even get one at this point, and even more lucky to get one with the roll you want. Maybe this, if you're listening to this and thinking about it later, whenever this becomes focusable or something like that, I would definitely lean on the side that Tony's on right now. Speccing into range doesn't do that much. I totally agree with you. After hearing you remind me again, I'm like, if I'm running gut shot, maybe it's worth it to do a little bit more, but it's one of those things where you just got to feel it. And I don't know anybody who has a gut shot roll on this yet. So
Yeah, me neither. Yeah. Yeah, and keep in mind as well that arrowhead break ends up giving you, so if you're not as concerned about that range from extended, extended gives you plus 10 recoil direction, that ends up pulling you up to 94 recoil direction. If you're not as concerned about the range, you go with arrowhead break, that gives you 100 recoil direction, right? Because it gives you the plus 30, which is just plus 16. It's not like you go over on the recoil direction, so it's in the end, it just makes your recoil direction completely 100. But it also gives you that plus 10 handling as well. And so if you're not running something like Slick Draw, we talked about the fact that this weapon has horrible handling out the gate. Then it can help improve that through the plus 10 handling that you get from arrowhead break as well. So
yeah, that's good. I just realized too, handling super important there. Whenever I spec'd it out, I think I might have left Slick Draw on or something because I had 100 handling written down, and that was not correct. It does not have anywhere close to 100 handling. So I'm totally with you. I think that going into that, the handling and the recoil direction's probably definitely the way to go on this one. Okay. If you get one.
Yeah. I'm generally with you. Is it my turn for my rules?
Do it.
Okay. Let me see. I do have one. For a second, I paused because I do have one of these in my vault, specifically because of one perk. It's because I'm in love. I'm in love again with Elemental Capacitor, and so I have an Elemental Capacitor roll on this thing. It's like an Elemental Capacitor, Envious Assassin, which I haven't thought too deeply about on this one, but I have thought about Elemental Capacitor quite a bit on this particular one. You could stack into stability, you could stack into handling, you could stack into strafe speed with stasis, you could stack into airborne effectiveness with Strand. And so, of course, if you want to stack into reload reload speed with solar. I mean, I don't know why you would, but nonetheless, you've got that option as well. So it also has the stability mass to work on it. It's got ricochet rounds or light mag, and then it's got hammer forged rifling or small bore, which I would take small bore on this one for the range and stability. I think most of us would take small bore on most weapons as an alternative to hammer forged, just because stability matters so much these days, especially since we're stacking into flinch resistance on top of it. Otherwise, besides the role that I actually do have in the vault that I would just like to try out, I'm not advocating for that role, or I'm not even strongly advocating for elemental capacitor, but I did keep it just to, check it out. I will say that my ears definitely perked up for headstone. I don't know. I just love headstone. Like anytime it becomes available on a stasis weapon, basically, which most times it is available on a stasis weapon, then my ears always kind of like perk up, because it's just such a cool and unique perk to that stasis family, basically.
Agreed.
I said that in the notes. I said I'm gonna fight you if you keep on dismissing my boy Keep Away, but I don't think Keep Away is on this one, right?
Yeah, I don't on the sidearm. Yeah, no, it's not here.
Yeah, it's not there. I'm gonna still fight you, but nonetheless.
I do want to double down on your headstone stuff, though, because it's a sidearm, so you're going to be using it in close range. Having that stasis crystal close to you, it might, you could leave it and leave that res knocked down if you're in trials or something like that, but also, if you're running stasis and you run this thing, you're close range, you get that headstone, that crystal, breaking it or leaving it there can give you damage resistance. There's all sorts of ways with your stasis subclass that you can play into that, and since you're on a sidearm, it will be very close to you, which is super nice.
Yeah, totally true. Actually, I scrolled down to the notes on the wrong part. So what I said for this is I feel like Under Pressure is maybe an underrated perk. Obviously, you mentioned Under Pressure a little bit earlier, so I'm not saying to you, but Under Pressure in general, it seems like it's kind of an underrated perk outside of fusion rifles. So I'm definitely wholeheartedly backing it here along with you. I do love the troll element of headstone, which I mentioned before. So I'm almost always going to pick that when I see stasis on a weapon. But otherwise, I'm right there with you. I'd probably be looking for an Under Pressure Headseeker, just knowing me and enjoying consistency perks.
Yeah.
Just to consistently end up hopefully getting like a 2-burst on, a lot of targets, especially in connection-based matchmaking supremacy, where orbs are just prevalent and just on the ground all the time. So you end up equipping stacks on stacks, a mod that ends up giving you 2 armor charges per orb or fire sprite or whatever intrinsic thing that drops per subclass, fire sprites, ionic traces, et cetera, but you can end up getting charged up from that, get an armor charge, but with stacks on stacks mod, you end up getting 2 armor charges per thing that you pick up, the orb or the fire sprite, etc.
Right.
And that ends up allowing you to 2-burst anyone, you said, right? Any resilience, is that correct?
Yeah, and also just a heads up, like the way it works, you don't need surge mods. So just a reminder for everyone, you don't need 2 orbs or anything like that. It just matters how many surge mods you have on. You can pick up 1 orb and
I didn't
get
realize
surge
that.
times 3
completely forgot about that.
That's why whenever those resilience checks things happen, or like I talked about surge times 3 with the first battle scar pulse, like it's easy to get surge times 3 because all you need is the 1 orb, and then you put on a perk that's like, or a mod that time dilation
on the actual class item.
That's like 15 seconds of surge times 3, if you just have the surge mods on for that element. So yeah, just from 1 orb.
Yeah, that's a great point and a great reminder, because I completely forgot about that. Cool. All right.
Yeah. All right. Now, is it time for me to get Legoleflash and talk about some stuff I don't like?
I haven't heard that one before. I like that. Legoleflash. I'm going to use that. I'm writing that one down. I'm writing that one down. Yep. Go on, baby.
Okay. So it's time. There are just some weapons in this game that I just don't understand why they do what they do, but the Irakanji rapid fire stasis sniper rifle, it is a rapid fire, 141 RPM, 292.5 crit, only 90 to the body as rapid fire snipers do. So no matter what, if you get double body shots, if you use all your ammo in the crucible that you start with and hit body shots, you will not get the kill. So that's the way these operate. the stats wise on this thing, pretty average, slightly lower aim assist and handling than the other rapid fire snipers, which is unfortunate because those are the things that I want on a sniper rifle. It does have 40 zoom, which is nice and low, but it's not as low as Father's Sins or Twilight Oath at their 35. So rapids are just bad stat-wise all around. This one is having slightly lower aim assist handling, really hurts it, and using it, because I got a roll, it's the under pressure Eye of the Storm roll, and I really thought I was going to love it because you got under pressure, which you're at the end of your mag already when you spawn. So it already is giving you a bit of that better accuracy cone and more stability and better accuracy cone growth. And then on top of that, Eye of the Storm, even better accuracy cone once you've got hit. I tried several times getting shot and taking a shot, and I tried taking a shot without Eye of the Storm and just under pressure. I could not hit anything with this thing. I was using Bite of the Fox before this, just rolling through people, swapped to this thing, and could not hit a thing. Granted, I'm not the best sniper in the world, but I hate this thing. There's nothing about it that I like, and I'm curious your take on it when you see this, because in practice, none of this worked for me.
That's good to know. All right. So you saying that, what's the role? You said, have you already mentioned your role that you have?
Yeah, so I mentioned what I have. If I had to spec it out for me, what I would have, I would probably put all range on it because the stats are so bad, and I want the sniper to be able to connect at that further range with the aim assist. So Hammer Forge, range masterwork, accurized, under pressure, and I feel like it needs opening shot. I feel like I could not hit anything without it, and I know how opening shot operates and changes guns, so I feel like opening shot really is what would make it sing, and under pressure and opening shot together is a massive boost to your accuracy right off the bat on special weapons in particular. And this is where I'll come in.
That's a good point.
I'll steal your thunder a little bit because you say, why do I keep knocking keep away?
There we go. That's the one.
I know, but keep away is only a 5% better accuracy cone. Under pressure, which activates immediately when you spawn in on this thing, you'll have a 25% decreased accuracy cone size rather than 5% of keep away. And then on your last shot, a 50% decreased accuracy cone size. So it's massive accuracy improvements.
Okay. You got me on board with it there. 'Cause like I said, I was about to fight you on keep away. Keep away being fantastic because, just like you said, I'd like to increase the range on this thing as much as possible. Snipers, it's all about... I guess it's actually kind of similar to, on these snipers, but it's kind of similar to shotguns as well. You're trying to get that range up and you're trying to get the handling up, on this particular, subfamily of sniper, by the way. And so I initially went with fluted, accurized, keep away, opening shot, and a handling masterwork. So that ends up taking the handling. Y'all know me in handling. I'm sorry. Y'all know me in handling. That ends up taking the handling up to 88, right? Up to 88. Ends up taking the range with keep away active up to 78. Keep away and opening shot. So, I guess I'd have to use it in practice and see if this is enough for it to feel like I'm getting solid hit detection, if I'm getting solid accuracy, if the bullet is going consistently, where I point, where that reticle is. But the thing with rapid fire frames all the time is hit detection, right? Because it oftentimes just doesn't have a lot of great range to it. And you feel it if you don't have something like opening shot in particular, just like you said. But under pressure is definitely looking particularly tasty since you described it and what it does for those last two shots, because under pressure, right when you spawn in, just like you said, is automatically active. And then on that last bullet, it's 50% decreased accuracy cone size, 25% obviously on the second to last, which you only get 2 bullets. So if I ended up doing that, I'd probably spec a little bit more into range, just like you said, probably change the handling masterwork to a range masterwork and see what I could do with that. That would end up giving me, let me just double check. Again, that would end up giving me 78 range and 78 handling. So, about the same amount of range, but it ends up giving me 10 less handling, but you end up getting the benefits of under pressure. So you're right. I'd probably go that direction. Fluted, range masterwork, accurized rounds, under pressure, and opening shot, and then see how that felt. See how that felt for there.
You do kind of got me thinking about the mouse and keyboard thing here, though, because for me on controller, I feel like I have to spec into under pressure and opening shot, given my experience with it. But Headstone is very good on a sniper where you can't protect the res sometimes, and maybe on PC you might have better luck running something like under pressure Headstone or keep away Headstone. So just something to keep in mind. Maybe the experience isn't going to be as bad for you. And snipers are very preferential, as all special weapons are.
So true.
So maybe you'll fall in love with it. But I'm telling you, I was going off with Bite of the Fox. Hadn't used it in forever. Just whipped it out to review some Iron Banner stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is so." And then I went to this, and I was like, "This is the worst. What is this thing?" And it was a good roll. Like I feel like Eye of the Storm and Under Pressure, those should go great together, even if it doesn't have the snappiness. But it just. Oh, it felt terrible.
No, absolutely. And you said it right as well. Sniper, it's kind of build your own sniper these days as well. As long as you can get the hit detection that you want at the ranges that you play at, handling is kind of just preference, because maybe you're wearing Ophidians and that's going to give you about 32 extra handling on that sniper rifle. Maybe you've got Dragon Shadow on, maybe you've got speed loaders on, So yeah, it's really just all about, hey man, am I able to hit these shots first and foremost comfortably? And then we go from there and see, what I can do to boost other stats that, end up enhancing my playstyle, right?
Right. Well, you ready to move on to something I'm very excited to talk about?
Oh, snap. Right before we end up getting into two that you're not, two or three that you're not excited about? I can already tell from the notes.
You nailed it. I mean, but to be fair, it's a lot of heavy weapons and stuff. But, okay.
True.
So, what I am excited about, the Kornok 22 Adaptive Frame Solar Auto Rifle. So, this thing has a lot of different options on it, and... Well, I'll hold it off. I'll hold off the perks for a second. Okay, Adaptive Frame Solar Auto Rifle, 22.8 crit, 14.3 body shot, 0.8 second time to kill, needs 100% headshots at 10 resil though, 9 bullets, 0.8 seconds though. Okay, so this thing is very similar stats-wise to the other craftable auto rifle that we covered last episode, which is Perpetualis. I think they're going to line up better perks-wise and everything with what more I'm looking for, because I used Perpetualis a lot. I've crafted one. I started doing the 1,000 RPM cascade point roll, and it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Something about it just could not connect the shots for me. This one I have high hopes for, though, because it is the only primary weapon in the energy slot that has cascade point. There is no other primary weapon that has cascade point.
Interesting. Okay.
In this slot. So the dream for PvE, I don't know about for PvP, we'll see how it plays out, but for PvP it would open up a lot of options. For PvE, you could run 3 cascade point heavy machine gun, a primary, and a special, and consistently alternate between all 3 of them, because Cascade Point operates based off precision hits, not just kills. You could infinitely have Cascade Point rolling, swapping between your weapons. That sounds pretty fun.
No, you're right. No, it does sound pretty fun. Honestly, like the reason why I was making that face right there is I'm just like, well, this hasn't quite encroached upon the contraband territory, but we're getting close.
Wait for it. I got you. I still got you.
Oh, God.
Yeah, okay. So stats-wise, very similar to other adaptive autos, except it has very low handling at 48 and 59 aim assist, the lowest of all adaptives. But it has a very high recoil direction, 73. Next highest is 60 with duty bound or the forward pass. So
that's pretty substantial.
Very, very high recoil direction, which I think is the thing that will fix my problem with Perpetualis, because I just felt like Perpetualis was all over the place when I was shooting that 1,000 RPM. I didn't feel that way on a lot of other weapons, and it's not like stability. It was hard to explain. It felt like it was the recoil direction stat. So to have this one have a high recoil direction that I could manage, I'm very excited to try that out.
Okay.
So damage perks, it also has target lock, which was also on Perpetualis, I think. Only affects time to kill at 5 Resil and under. So up to 5 Resil, you can do a 0.7 second TTK. It's not as effective as it is on the Immortal, like the Immortal, like getting down to that 0.54 second TTK. This is only 0.7 seconds. It's not that fast. So there's that. There's Adrenaline Junkie for damage perks, which can kill it brings it to a 0.7 second TTK as well, up to 7 Resil. So still not great as far as anything, and that's off of a kill, and it only lasts 4.5 seconds. And then there's 2 other ones. Then their rate of fire stuff. Cascade Point, which I just talked about, 1,000 RPM. That one's a 0.48 second TTK against 10 Resil. And I've done it a few times, Tony, and it's... I should have sent you the clip beforehand. It's hilariously fast, and it can kind of cross-map. Because it's an auto rifle. It's not like an SMG. So it feels pretty solid, but... There's something else with Cascade Point we're going to talk about later that I'm even more excited about. So,
all right, I'm looking forward to it.
But what I'm hoping for on this one, Cascade Point, for me, is that it fixes the problems that I had with Perpetualis. It was just a little wonky, like with the recoil. Whenever I got Cascade Point and that 1,000 RPM came out, I felt like the recoil direction was messing with me. Here, maybe it'll fix that problem.
Maybe. I mean, Arrowhead Break would take this to straight up 100 recoil direction.
Yep.
So,
That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So lastly, last 2 perks is it's got the Adagio, 30% damage buff, plus 30 range, but it fires slower with a 1.2 times firing delay. I don't think it's worth it on this one. It brings you to a 0.72 second TTK, so it's not as good as even target lock. In some resiliences.
Of course.
And it's not as good as Adrenaline Junkie either. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Adagio.
Whenever I see Adagio on an auto rifle too, I'm just like, why wouldn't I just put on Ceros?
Just roll faster.
That's always my thing about Adagio on auto rifles, and it just depends, of course. I mean, sometimes Adagio ends up doing some funky things, but that's always what I'm thinking. Ceros exists, so
the other one worth mentioning is Envious Assassin. Not so much in PvP, because as I was using Perpetualis, I never felt like I ran out of ammo while using Cascade Point. You're shooting that 1,000 RPM, but it only lasts for 2.5 seconds. By the time you find your target and stuff, the ammo isn't a problem. But I wanted to bring it up because, as I said, only energy slot, primary Cascade Point, Envious Assassin in PvE with Cascade Point, and this is a solar weapon. You could run Path of Burning Steps, start doing even more damage, dude.
My baby.
You could go off.
Okay. All right.
Just an option.
Writing it down. No. This is no longer an option. Once you said Path of Burning Steps, baby, I started writing it down on my list of wants.
I really do want this, and why I want it is because, I talked about swapping between Cascade Points and PvE, but I've been doing it with the new Scout that we'll talk about in a little bit from Guardian Games, and you get in a rhythm of getting a kill with one weapon and swapping to that Cascade Point and then swapping back to your other weapon. And it becomes this gameplay loop that is so fun. And when you get the time to kill down to, around 0.5 seconds, it just is so addicting. I cannot express how fun it is to get that loop going and figure out how to keep the loop going. And so if I had 2 weapons with Cascade Point, and this is where Envious Assassin might come in too, because the way Envious Assassin operates is getting a kill with another weapon activates it, so it plays perfectly into Cascade Point. The trick is you have to use all of your ammo from the Envious Assassin before it works again. So say it overflows the magazine by 10 bullets, you have to use those 10 bullets, and then when you swap back to your other weapon and get a kill, it will refill it again when you swap back. So the goal hear out my full goal here is to have 2 weapons with Cascade Point and Envious Assassin.
Yep.
So you perfectly loop, get a kill, swap. You have a 0.5 second TTK potential. It's overfilled mag. You use the overfilled mag. Don't completely run out of ammo. You switch back to your other Cascade Point weapon, and you just keep going back and forth. You don't need an exotic or anything else refilling your mags for you. I don't know. Could be strong.
No, it could be strong. I like that gameplay loops because of my thoughts, my experience, and what I've said about Harmony. Right? When Harmony first came out, I really loved the gameplay loop of Double Harmony. Yes. And so it's nice to see the weapons team continuing to double down on perks that you have on multiple weapons, right? The same perk you have on multiple weapons, and then the gameplay loop of just swapping between them two, those two, in order to get kills on each weapon, and then, utilizing that to keep that perk up on both. Very cool. Very cool. I like it. And, my understanding of Cascade Point continues to, deepen every time we talk about it, and options continue to pop up.
And I just want to remind people too, because we're going to talk about, I'm doubling down on Cascade Point here because we're going to talk about it later as well. I haven't used it on this weapon. I do have a target lock version of this gun. I do not have Cascade Point. I'm very excited to try it out, as I've said, but Cascade Point is the same concept as Harmony, but you use it opposite. So what I mean by that is Harmony, you only have 3 seconds to swap to your weapon and use Harmony. This, you have 5 seconds, but then you only have 2.5 seconds to use it. Harmony, you have 7 seconds to use it. So a lot of people get mixed up here, and I've had a lot of comments like, how are you using Cascade Point? I feel like it runs out too fast. The trick is you use it at the right moment. You store it for that full 5 seconds, so you kind of count to yourself. You get the kill, 1, 2, 3, you're finding your opponent, 4, swap weapons, 2.5 seconds of a 0.5 second TTK. Like, that's how you use Cascade Point, and it's extremely effective and hilariously fun when you nail it that 0.5 seconds down.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I saw your role with regards to the surplus, the Cascade Point. I guess the only thing I wanted to mention out of a role that I'd be excited about would be Zen Moment. Zen Moment being kind of everybody's current darling, especially with Zen Moment coming so prominent on the new Scout Rifle from Guardian Games, right? Was there a reason why you chose surplus over Zen Moment?
Yes.
Is it just what are your thoughts on that?
So my whole spec out for this, I'm still revolving around Cascade Point. If you want to go target lock, feel free to. That makes more sense for the standard player. If you like using your one weapon and doing the hot swapping or double Harmony or double Cascade Point, or you're just like shotgunning, fusion rifle, sniper rifle, and then swapping, this is the build I would recommend: is chamber compensator, stability masterwork, and ricochet rounds, and then surplus. So I'm doubling, and then I use a counterbalance mod. So the reason that I'm not going arrowhead break is I'm speccing all into stability, because I've noticed on my other weapons with Cascade Point that that had Zen Moment on multiple of them, and it didn't matter as much as the extra stability did. So initial. So what I mean by that is Zen Moment activates when you're hitting your shots. It activates more, and you're shooting so fast at 1,000 RPM that you either kill them or you don't. You just want to be on target. And if Zen Moment takes a second to get activated, whereas I would rather have the stability right away to do my 1,000 RPM. Just in my experience with the limited time that I've had with this weapon, not this weapon, but one very similar to it, Perpetualis, and with the new Scout, Zen Moment did not matter as much, which I think is a controversial thing that we'll get to on the Scout in a little bit, but Zen Moment has not been the play for me, which has been very interesting.
Gotcha. And something I noticed as well as you were kind of talking through that is that surplus also gives you handling for the swap.
Yes.
Right? So not only does it give you that stability boost, per stack, depending upon how many abilities that you have up at the time, right? But it also gives you that handling boost for the swap for that Cascade Point. So that's kind of a good point and a pro for surplus versus Zen Moment as well.
And it makes up a little bit for, I was running chambered compensator to give me a little extra recoil direction since I'm not using arrowhead brake. And that's downing my handling a little bit, so surplus can kind of make up for that.
That's a really good point. Got you. Okay. All right. I feel it. You've convinced me, good sir.
Hopefully I can continue. Did you have any other notes on the Cornet?
No. That was pretty much it. I was reading through yours, and of course I saw the Envious Assassin, and of course I saw the surplus. Yeah. But I was just wondering why we didn't necessarily recommend Zen Moment.
It's a good point.
Equal or over surplus. Not because I definitely believed in Zen Moment over surplus. I just know especially with this new Scout Rifle coming out and everybody going crazy about Zen Moment more and more so, that's coming up in the discussion. I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned it and crossed it.
I would double down on that and say that normally that would be the perk to go for. Like, if you're not using Cascade Point on any of these weapons we're talking about, Zen Moment is the perk to go for. I just happen to really like the gameplay loop of Cascade Point, so Zen Moment doesn't help me as much there.
Understood. I'm with you. Okay. Sounds good to me.
Okay, let's move on to a few weapons that I will not talk very long about so that we can get to the good stuff. So, Harsh Language is a Waveframe Void grenade launcher, 72 RPM. Stats-wise, it's slightly lower stability and handling than the others, but basically the same. There's not much to say about the stats of Waveframes. Perks-wise, destabilizing rounds is in there. So
I
that's
like destabilizing rounds. I do like them.
It has Envious Assassin, so you get a kill with your other weapon. I believe that will put 2 in the mag for you. That is interesting as well. And then also Golden Tricorn, which doesn't mean much at ×1, but I will say if you get ×2 going, there are ways to one-shot with it. I don't recommend that. It is very difficult for the amount of work that you have to do. I have clips of it. You can go watch my Golden Tricorn video. I use a Waveframe grenade launcher to demonstrate that in it. But yeah, it's funny, but don't do it.
Got you. All right, sounds good. What other perks are we looking at here?
That's all the perks for me. It's got Unrelenting. It's got Repulsor Brace, which I'm sure will interest some people. Disruption Break really is a big one, I think, as well. But that's kind of it for me. Maybe Shot Swap would be something to think about as well. You get the kill and swap back to it. But usually I see people using Waveframes as blinting tools, not cleanup tools. So that kind of takes away Shot Swap because you have to get the kill for Shot Swap to work. So I wouldn't put that on the table. To me, Envious Assassin is the must-have. You're getting the cleanup, and then Envious Assassin filling your mag. Like, that just makes the most sense to me. And then outside of that, like Disruption Break, Unrelenting, Repulsor Brace, and Destabilizing Rounds are the fourth column heroes here, I think. To me, I'll just say my build real quick, and then I'll let you take it and see where you want to go with it. I think that Envious Assassin and Destabilizing Rounds together could be kind of funny because say you spec it out for all handling, quick launch, handling masterwork, high velocity rounds. You're at 93 velocity and 92 handling, so you can swap to it really fast. The loop is after you get a primary kill, you switch to your grenade launcher that has 2 rounds in it. Shoot those 2 Waveframe rounds back to back with destabilizing rounds. That would be a kill with 2 of those going out, and then everyone blows up like in a group of enemies. It sounds kind of fun, but also, I don't know. You could go Disruption Break and be a normal person, but this sounds fun to me.
And we always talk about the fact that we're looking at each weapon whenever we review them for something that it does unique, versus other weapons or other like subfamily of whatever archetype that we're talking about. So I'm right there with you. You could of course be the normie, right? That goes for the Disruption Break, and there's nothing wrong with that. Disruption Break on GLs are awesome. The one thing that I was I know it can't always be, these S tier reload perks can't always be on every GL. There's always got to be a bottom. There's always got to be a variety, right? I was definitely disappointed that we didn't see the auto loading or the slide shot. But again,
Right.
It can't be on everything. We do have Envious Assassin. We do have Field Prep, which I feel like is always kind of slept on for the 0.8 times reload duration multiplier. So it increases the reload whenever you're crouched.
Right.
It's definitely a gameplay loop you'd have to get used to, but one of my buddies in my clan loved Field Prep on his spare rations, and nobody ever understood why. And it was because he would just say, look, I didn't get Outlaw or whatever else reload I could get on it, slide shot, but I did get Field Prep, and I know I can get a really fast reload just by crouching real quick, reloading, and then coming right back up. He adored that spare rations. So something, definitely that I feel like folks dismiss a lot of times. I'm not saying it's S tier or anything, people, but I am saying that you do get that 0.8 times reload duration multiplier. You do get just straight up plus 50 reload speed off of it as well. And you do get a little bit of, while you're crouched, you do get a little bit of handling animation speed multiplier at 0.8x times ready stow duration multiplier, right? So something I want to remind folks of handling, just as a small side tangent. I'll try to be as quick as possible about this. On D2 Foundry, man, they are doing amazing things with these stats. And so you can actually equip and activate these different perks, or you could just boost your handling via different means, and you can see the three different elements, how it affects the three different elements of handling. Handling affects your ready speed, your ADS speed, and your stow speed. And certain perks end up affecting certain categories of handling, right? Versus other perks. And so you can end up seeing how, equipping this versus that ends up being beneficial to a specific aspect of handling that is advantageous for that archetype of weapon. You might need, since most times you're hip firing, right? A grenade launcher, this is an example. You might not need that ADS speed, but you might really, really need that ready speed, right? You need to whip it out as quickly as possible, or you need to stow it as quickly as possible as well if you end up having something like auto loading holster on it. So just another kind of like shout out to D2 Foundry for that. That's like my favorite aspect of this website of the last like month or so since they implemented that, because I'm a handling geek to the max. So shout out. But those were my thoughts on, I'm not a big GL person. I just know from my folks that auto loading and slide shot are like S tier perks on them. But I do recognize they, for variety purposes, they can't be on everything. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. And good to know for the next weapon, too. We're going to go over the Marsilian C. It's a heavy, rapid-fire solar grenade launcher, 150 RPM. I literally have, 0 notes on this thing because I just don't feel like you would ever run this in PvP with the other grenade launchers that exist. It has impulse amplifier and full court in the fourth column as, interesting perks, but there's nothing that's gonna help you. Maybe shot swap and impulse amplifier, there's your thing right there. And what else is there? That's it. And even everything else almost doesn't matter. I would probably run quick launch, higher explosive ordnance, handling masterwork, and a freehand grip just to up that handling time as much as possible. Fire from the hip. You got shot swap to swap back, but why use it? I just don't know. For hockey, this is the answer for the hockey breach armaments. Okay.
It takes so much to take out a barricade, bro. If I pick this up,
You're going to use heavy ammo to take out a barricade.
It takes so much, man, till primary damage does more on those things, bro. I ain't wasting my special ammo. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to take it just for the memes. I'm going to take out that barricade right there. People are going to be wondering, why I did it. And cool.
Yeah, I gotta get rid of the Titans. That's it.
War on Titans, bro.
War on Titans.
But I'm right there with you. There's nothing big to write home about in PvP on this thing. Somebody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but sure, we can move on whenever you're ready.
I will say there's a weird thing with this weapon where it shows up in the crafting table, but there's no quest or anything to craft it yet. But we have those deep sight things coming where you can use it to next season to craft a weapon. So, and this one says it only needs one deep sight to craft it. So
interesting. Okay.
It will be craftable at some point. You can enhance it on all the sites. But it's still not worth using. Why would you just don't need it? So use something else. Okay.
Use something else.
A sword. Again, don't really need this one because it's random. Why not just craft one of the swords from the seasonal thing that we talked about last episode? This one does have Valiant Charge perk, which is like the Eager Edge dive when you block. So you just block for a second, and then you'll be able to do your crazy Eager Edge thing. This is an adaptive, so the lunging uppercut arc sword. The thing that I'll say here is if you do want to run a sword, this goes for any of those swords, run Jagged Edge, just as high damage as you want because the ammo pickup doesn't change in PvP. True. And then Burst Guard will give you, I think, the best for blocking damage and sustaining that damage without taking away your ammo, and then you use your Valiant Charge. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. The middle perk doesn't even matter because when are you going to use like Relentless Strikes, like 3 light attacks and then get sword ammo back? Maybe you'll do it fast enough. It has to be within 2 seconds though. So like you would have to get a triple kill.
You're dead. There's no way. People, you're dead.
You might as well run Wellspring or Energy Transfer, something else. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, one question I do have, and I'm not sure if you know or anybody else out there knows, feel free to hit us on the socials, is you remember how I said backup mag ends up definitely like increasing the amount of machine gun ammo that you pick up from a heavy brick, right? I wonder whether backup mag increases sword ammo pickup from a heavy brick as well. I feel like I would have heard about it by now, but I am kind of wondering about it now.
So it says it does in Foundry by 10. The thing is, though, is that I tanked the ammo pickup by 20, and it didn't change how much I picked up. So I don't think that it's going to change by increasing it by 10 either. I'm actually positive on that on this weapon because some of the ammo capacity of the other swords was higher than this. So I don't think it will change anything. Maybe in PvE you could do that. But yeah, here, it's not going to make a difference.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Let's keep it moving then. Guardian Games.
It's time.
Weapons. It's time, baby.
Games.
Yeah, we going back up now.
Okay. So Guardian Games. I'm actually kind of impressed with this first one. The title. The Aggressive Void SMG. 720 RPM. Just like the Immortal. 21.6 crit. 15 body shots. That's a 0.77 second TTK. 80% headshots required at 10 Resil. But up to 7 Resil, it's only 0.67 TTK, just keep in mind, but base less literally every stat than Immortal. We're talking 10 less range, 5 less stability, 10 less handling, 7 less aim assist, 11 less recoil direction, but its one saving grace is it has 1 more zoom than Immortal.
That's what I was about to say. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Immortal has 14, this has 15, which is a big deal. Just keep in mind that Immortal also is adept. You can add something there, more range if you want there, and it has alacrity intrinsically. So if you're playing Rumble or something like that, you can boost your range and everything else even more. So the title suffers in all of these ways compared to the Immortal. That said, the title has one thing, or outside of zoom, has one thing that the Immortal does not, and that is rangefinder and dynamic sway in different columns. The Immortal it has rangefinder and dynamic sway in this same column.
Same column. That's a good point.
So that is, I actually want this roll. I've got, everybody gets the rangefinder perpetual motion roll right out of the gate. And I'm really digging it. And here is why. We kind of tested the zoom with the Destiny Massive Breakdown community with rangefinder on Immortal versus rangefinder on the title. And they come out about even. Everybody's saying that the title with its 15 zoom and rangefinder is 16 zoom. That is not
that's not equivalent.
Accurate. Yeah, it's actually more like 16.5 zoom because the way that zoom works and rangefinder is it's not 10% times 15. It's 15 is actually like 1.5 times magnification, and then you times that by 10%, which would be 1.65. So it's more like 16.5. That's not completely like when you test it all out, it's like 16 point somewhere between 0 and 5. But the point is it's more than 16 zoom. So all in all, a max range Immortal versus max range the Title with rangefinder, they equal about the same thing. And that's just because the Immortal has so much range stat on its base.
It's juiced to begin with.
Juiced. So,
correct. And I actually did pull that up before you even mentioned about the comparison between the two on max ranges. I was already pulling it up. And so the max range Title, and just for completeness, we're talking about full bore, we're talking about ricochet rounds, or of course you can go, AP rounds or high cal rounds. It's all the same, +5. Rangefinder and a range masterwork that ends up giving you 23.36 meters at ADS before damage fall off start. The Immortal is the same thing, except you get an adept range, right? You get an adept range on top of it that gives you 23.9. So the adept range mod actually makes all the difference in putting Immortal over the top, because if I take the adept range mod off, you get 22.84, right? 22.84. So it's about 0.5 difference if you have just 0.5 meter difference if you have just a regular Immortal versus a Title. The Title comes out a little bit on top, but the adept mod does make a difference in getting the adept Immortal on top over. But just like you said, it doesn't make much of a difference. They're about the same range, just because the Title ends up having that +1 boost to zoom.
Yeah. So all that said, the adept is like Tony said, the adept is the thing that pushes it over. So
correct.
I think for the average player, the Title might be the better SMG for you. And I say that because one, you don't have to go get the adept. So there's that. And you can still have just a ton of range with this thing. And then two, dynamic sway. If you get a roll with dynamic sway and rangefinder together, that's a much more user-friendly experience than using the Immortal.
That's a good point.
So if you're not just on it, the Immortal, obviously, if you're on it and you got target lock, you're going to shred. But if you're not on it, like you're not S tier at your aim and you're constantly on target and you sway on and off some, dynamic sway is going to help you. And the Immortal wouldn't help you anyway, because target lock, you have to stay on target. If you miss within 0.2 seconds of a bullet, target lock goes away. Correct. So maybe at our skill level, an adept Immortal might be better, but for a lot of players, and me included, I'm included in there too. Rangefinder and dynamic sway could feel really good. I was using
a banger combination.
Yeah, I was using just the normal rangefinder on the Title, and it just felt really good. It felt awesome. So
yeah, I was getting burned out by it. In Supremacy, actually, I was just like, oh, okay, that's how I know weapon's good, is especially in connection-based matchmaking. If I just see a good amount of people using it and using it effectively against me, generally I don't miss my shots with my hand cannon, right? So, no, I'm impressed by it, and you said it exactly right. It's kind of like the Immortal for just the common man, right? You don't go into Trials per se. You don't have to get an adept version, but that dynamic sway rangefinder, do not dismiss it, because I think that is the play with this thing. If we're just talking about, hey, I want this thing to just work and for me to get a lot of consistency out of it, and to have something that is comparable to the Immortal with regards to how effective it is at these ranges.
Yeah, and I was thinking about dynamic sway just now. It's so interesting that we have one on this one, and it's not as beneficial to run it on Immortal, but how opposite they are, because dynamic sway helps you stay on target. You start getting hits, and it makes you more accurate, up to 50% smaller accuracy cone size with up to minus 100 accuracy cone growth. It's one of the most crazy accuracy perks in the game. So it helps you stay on target, whereas the Immortal, it challenges you to stay on target with target lock.
Ooh, that's a good way to look at it.
It's I really think the Title, I don't dismiss it. Like, if people are telling you the Immortal's better, why use the Title? Depending on the player, you might like the Title a lot more. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'm with you. And keep in mind as well that the Title, just the feel of the weapon is different. The sight is different, right?
Yeah, true.
So, like to some degree, the Immortal feels like, when I shoot it, when I look through that sight, it feels like a multi-mock. I mean, they're both 750s, right? Multi-mock is 900. So the actual style of the weapon, the sight of the weapon, plays into how a lot of people enjoy that weapon or do well, or are productive with that weapon as well. So, yeah. Yeah, the title, I don't know. There's also something about the sound cue on the title. I actually like the sound cue. We've talked about this before. I actually like the sound cue on the title more than the Immortal as well.
Me
it just
too.
feels like chunkier, like pop, 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 pop. So, the Immortal, obviously everybody knows what that sounds like at this point, and maybe it's a little annoying to folks, including myself. But yeah, definitely impressed by the title as far as it being kind of like a Imperial Decree versus an Astral Horizon. That's how I compare it.
Right. And even a more accurate comparison, if you use borrowed time at all, it's very similar to that in my experience. I love borrowed time, have a rangefinder kill clip roll. And I really dig it. And this reminds me of that, and maybe even more solid. They're very, very similar. So yeah, keep that in mind. And also, plus this has Hawkeye Breach armaments on it, the title. So it can help you take down those barricades, like you're saying.
Hey, bro, I need anything I can, all the tools I can in this War on Titans. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So absolutely on this roll, go all range. For me, full bore ricochet rounds, because dynamic sway will make up for any stability loss. Range masterwork. Don't forget your counterbalance mod, and run that rangefinder. I think it's pretty good. I'm excited to get the roll that I want. Have not got it yet, but I'm going to be gunning for it.
Yeah, and you make a great point. The last thing we'll say, you make a great point about that counterbalance mod, taking it straight from 85 recoil straight to 100.
Exactly.
So it's plus 15. I love it when weapons are at 85 recoil direction in particular, because I know that, my brain, my OCD just goes off. It just goes crazy because I'm just like, plus 15 exactly? It's literally perfect. This weapon is made for counterbalance, man. So, yeah, great point.
Nice. Okay. Well, anything else to say about the title here?
No, I think that they've just done another great job of pulling through a weapon that isn't tied to trials, right? Yeah. But gives you a similar productivity experience to a weapon that everybody wants from trials, making it so that people that don't want to necessarily engage with the playlist or spend a lot of time engaging with the playlist still have a great option just by playing, an event playlist that we all enjoy. I would hope most of us enjoy. Some people enjoy. I don't know how to say it, people. Connection-based, skill-based. Y'all got me all flustered, bro. I don't know how to say it. I don't know if you enjoy it or not. I hope you are. All right.
Okay. The last one here. I don't know how to pronounce this. I heard different ways. You could say Taraxippos was some people were saying it.
It's the T-hip, bro. It's the T-hip bros.
That's what I
T-hip
think.
Bros.
Some people are saying Taraxippos, like all sorts of stuff. I just say Taraxippos. We'll call it the hippos. Yeah. So
the hippos.
The lightweight Strand Scout. I absolutely love this thing.
This thing is a dream. This is the star of the show.
Agreed. Completely agree. I can't believe how good it feels. I didn't write down the stats here, but stats wise, it is like just goated, like really great stability. It doesn't have as great range, but everything else, the aim assist is cranked up there at 75. It just feels awesome. Even I feel like no matter what I put on this thing, it feels good, but we're going to put some stuff on it because it's got some crazy options. So
it really does.
I'll save the best for last, but I'll talk about some of the other stuff first. You've got the standard roll that everybody gets. Everybody got the Zen Moment kill clip. Feels great. Kill clip rolling. You've got a 0.6 second 3-bullet kill at any Resil, and that kill clip lasts for 5 seconds. So that's a great option if you're using your primary at range. I don't necessarily play that way. Just going to talk about some of the other ways you can play it. So before I get to Cascade Point, which I'm very excited to talk about, I want to mention Gut Shot, Straight, and Explosive Payload. Some people are talking about this, and there's a good reason why. Gut Shot buffs Explosive Payload. It makes it 1 body and 3 head instead of all headshots. So that's still a 0.9 second TTK, but it's very forgiving versus where you have to get the all headshots. So something to keep in mind. You can do that with Gut Shot. And then if you want to get real crazy with it, which I don't recommend, but if you're running solar, you could go Radiant. Whenever you pick up an orb, so you get that ×3 surge from the 1 orb, go Radiant. You're now 3 headshotting, 0.6 TTK up to 8 Resil. You have no kill perk. You didn't get a kill. you're just 3 headshotting at 0.6 time to kill. That's crazy. And nobody's really talking about that, but that's a damage buff thing you can do there.
Oh, Radiant has lost a little bit of its luster. That's the only reason why, right?
Agreed.
And I'm not saying it's not still something that folks should consider investing into, especially if you play that solar subclass. But
right,
people were on that Radiant to start. People just don't talk about it as much these days. But it's still certainly something that is useful and something that can change the feel of a weapon, the productivity of a weapon, if you invest into it and know what you're doing.
Yeah. Same feels. Okay, let's talk Cascade Point. I have to. So this thing, we've talked about how Cascade Point gets different scalars. Previously, auto rifles were the only primary to get the faster 0.6 scalar. The algorithm here, the formula, is you take your RPM and divide it by the scalar number. SMGs get 0.7, so they are slower because it's dividing. And then auto rifles are faster. You divide by the 0.6. Scouts, we did Destiny Master Breakdown. Mossy was on it, getting the stats right away. It's a 0.6 scalar, and so it comes out to 333.33 RPM, which is, it's an auto rifle, basically. It turns it into an auto rifle, but hitting much harder. So like I said, Cascade Point, you can keep it stowed for 5 seconds. You whip it out. That super fast RPM gives you a 0.54 second time to kill against 10 Resil.
Crazy.
It's rare that you pull off the 0.54 second, like all headshots, 4 headshots like you normally will, but it's so fast when it happens. I came across a group of 3 enemies one time, just yesterday. Last night I was playing Fusion Rifle, one guy, come around the corner, I see my radar ping, and I whipped out the Cascade Point Scout. There's 3 people looking at me. I should be dead on the spot. And they shoot me with like a sniper rifle and a primary. It was like all these bullets, but it's so fast that it just went dead. Like I died, but I took a guy with me, and I was like, how did I get that kill? It was like I used a sniper rifle and there was lag or something, that should not have happened.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's like the ghost of Cool Guy in here right now, because right before we started the firing range podcast, we were in the call, and I would say 85% of the pre-show conversation was just Cool Guy showing us clips of Cascade Point, just going crazy about it. He's just like, man, this is so crazy. It's 333 RPM. Man, you just got to check this out. No, you got to check this out right here. So, I have been a part of the cult of Cascade Point on this particular weapon for a bit now, and I'm totally invested in making sure that I get a great roll of it.
Okay, so let me take it one step further now. And this is the part I haven't watched Cool Guy's review yet. I know he just came out with it today after y'all had that conversation. But this is the part that I'm on that I can't stop thinking about and that the game will just not give me. So what's really cool about Cascade Point is even if you don't hit the 4 headshots for the 0.54 second, you're firing so fast that you could hit a few bodies on your way up and still just absolutely melt someone. And so you can take it just even a step further, and you've got gut shots straight in the first column. Now, for whatever reason, I just didn't feel like I needed Zen Moment on this thing. It just hits perfect. That 333 RPM isn't crazy. It just feels like you're firing an auto rifle. So I'm thinking, and also adding on to this, I ended up hip firing it a lot because close range people will just come in and I'll just I'll just fire really fast, and it's like I think a 1.1 second time to kill. It's not great, but it's like fast for a body shot only kill.
Okay.
If you add in gut shot, it takes it to a 0.9 second all body shot TTK at any Resil. That is so low for an all body shot long range scout rifle. That is, take a look at the normal TTK is 0.8 seconds. So you're almost at the normal time to kill value of the scout. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Actually, you know what? I even have the wrong time to kill value. That's not even right. I had the auto rifle left in there. That's not even the right normal time to kill value on the Scout. It's actually right here. It is 0.9 seconds. So yeah, exactly the same. I knew that was too fast. So it is the exact same time to kill value as all headshots, but all body shots.
Yeah, like I said, we're just right there on the cusp of the contraband, right there.
I know. It is the contraband. I'm telling you, I don't even have this roll yet. I just have the one that's slightly slower because it doesn't have gut shot straight. I have my favorite roll right now is a moving target cascade point that I have that just helps me connect more. I have the Zen Moment cascade point. I didn't feel like it helped as much, but the gut shot straight cascade point, I think y'all need to take a look at this because even if you miss some, like say you hit some body shots and you hit 2 headshots, that's a 0.72 second adjusted time to kill, faster than the normal all headshot. So, and to keep that in context, a hand cannon, again, is 0.87 seconds.
I don't know why you got to mention, bro, there's a lot of other weapons. You didn't have to mention the hand cannon, bro.
I have to mention it because it's what every player knows, how fast you can get killed by a 3-tap hand cannon. So it's the
true,
baseline.
The 0.87. That's true. It just makes me feel some sort of way every time you do, bro. That's all.
I know. I'll find a different weapon, okay? I'll find fusion rifle charge time. Let's see. 0.72 seconds. That's about the charge time of an adaptive fusion rifle. There you go.
Okay. See, I like that better. I don't feel any sort of way about that, honestly.
Oh, okay. So let's dive into exactly what to roll here. You've also got no distractions as an option, but not really my cup of tea there. I say, I take it back. You could roll no distractions if you're running kill clip. Like that makes sense if you want to go that route with it. For me though, that cascade point, like you said earlier, we highlight the things that make this unique.
Exactly.
And cascade point makes this a trophy weapon. I would run it with arrowhead and counterbalance. Just get that recoil direction perfect. Steady rounds, gut shot straight, cascade point, and then be sure to swap to the Omelon Fluid Dynamics intrinsic trait. Don't use the Guardian Games trait because Omelon Fluid Dynamics will give you 20 stability for the top of your mag. So that right there is just a ton of stability to add into your gut shot straight cascade point. You could go all body shots. You could go headshots. I think it's going to be incredible. If you don't like gut shot straight, moving target works too. Yeah.
And my role would be the exact same for the most part. I mean, I've got like small difference, but arrowhead break, steady rounds, actually like a range masterwork on this to take it back up to 45 range. That gives me 70 meters before damage fall off. And so that's kind of just like the standard, plus counterbalance, of course, to take it to 99 recoil direction. Mm-hmm. So that would be my base pretty much for anything on the end that I would select. And you're right, Zen Moment. Zen Moment, moving target. I'm not the biggest like gut shot straight, fan. I'm always trying to hit headshots. It's just what's rewarding to me in the game. So I'm not dismissing the validity of gut shot straight on this weapon based on what you've been saying, but it's not really my style.
Gotcha.
But yeah, moving target. Now that you've said Zen Moment didn't feel like it did as much on this weapon as just having some good stability. I'm kind of leaning into just aim assist, basically, that moving target and also that strafe speed. Moving target, I definitely want to try to get one of those rolls because also the aim assist on this at base is 75.
Yeah,
you end up putting moving target on it, that's 85, right? Then you have even just one targeting mod is 5, 2 is 8, and 3 is about 10. So if you really wanted to like get into it, build into it, then you could have 95 aim assist on this thing by the end. And then on top of that, for me, me and I love consistency perks. You're talking about keep away. And so, sorry, I didn't actually mention this. Sorry, it's keep away that actually takes that range up to 45 because I do have that active on the site right now. So, if it was arrowhead, steady rounds and a range masterwork without keep away, that'd be 35 range. That would also be 67 meters, about flat, 67 meters with keep away active and that plus 10 range to take it to 45. Then you have 69.95, so about 70 70 meters before damage fall off starts. But either way, I just love, I mean, I've talked about how Keep Away is kind of like my darling perk of this DLC because of that accuracy cone boost, because of the 10 range, the 30 reload speed, but also just keeping in mind the fact that Keep Away synergizes really well on any weapon that you're just downrange on, right? A 120, a scout rifle, a sniper rifle, things like that. So other perks on the end, because in the previous column, the only things I see personally are Zen Moment and Moving Target. And for folks that are fans of Gutshot Straight, then Gutshot Straight. If you want to get funky and you want to be one of those players, one of those guys, and of course you've got your offhand strike there as well, which, you know, a lot of niche folks like. But on the end, I really like Keep Away. I like the kill clip, of course. Encore is cool, but it's not necessarily one that I'm going for. I'm really kind of intrigued by Focus Fury, just because I'm always intrigued by Focus Fury on a weapon that is a precision weapon. You know, the ideal is to go for those precision shots because you all you need to do is hit 3 or 4 of them like a hand cannon. So that's always intriguing to me, especially if you end up pairing that with a moving target or with Zen Moment as well.
That Focus Fury will bring you up to a 0.6 second, that 3 headshot up to 6 Brazil. So it's not bad.
Yeah, that's actually not bad, especially the fact that you get it for 10 seconds. Focus Fury is active. Once it's active for 10 seconds, and that's through a reload. It's through anything that you want to do. I can't remember whether, I'm pretty sure swapping off the weapon, stowing or reloading resets the precision counter, but the buff persists through stowing if active. Okay, so even stowing it. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Even stowing it, Focus Fury. So through anything basically that you're going to do, if the buff is active for those 10 seconds, it's active. You can swap on or off. You can reload. You can do whatever you want. So Focus Fury is still, I feel like, kind of an underrated perk, and maybe not super underrated only because obviously you have to hit 50% of the magazine as precision hits, right? So there's an ease of use aspect to it. Cascade Point, of course. Hatchling, man. Hatchling on this thing is cool. I just love the idea of, you know, that power fantasy on Strand Warlock of just getting as many of those little green rats out as possible and just bonking people. And I feel like on a weapon that is really downrange, like Round Robin, a Run 20, or like a scout rifle like this, where you could just be off the radar in the back of the map pinging people. And with this, I feel like you could consistently ping people in the head. I just think having that little rat, that little green rat come out and start doing some things, especially paired with the other, you know, fragments and, you know, other ways that you can get a threadling to spawn. It's just cool. It's a cool concept. Similar, I feel like Hatchling is to Strand like Headstone is to Stasis. And so that's why I kind of adore it, because I like the Headstone fantasy on Stasis as well and the uniqueness of it.
Speaking of Hatchling, I should mention that the scientists told me, I haven't tested this myself or seen videos of it, but that Hatchling is buffed by Gutshot Straight as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you could technically run the fragment that gives your hatchlings more damage on a warlock or on any class. Yeah, your hatchling more damage, and then on top of that, it get buffed by Gutshot Straight. You know, I don't think that's going to change the time to kills of anything, but if you're looking for just extra damage, that is a way to do that.
Interesting. Okay, that's what's up.
That's what's up.
Didn't realize that.
Is what is up with this weapon, I think.
Yeah. I cannot stress enough. This weapon is, y'all gotta play Guardian Games for this. Yeah. Guardian Games is out for 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. And this weapon is a dream. I'm not excited about any sort of meta that is a scout rifle meta.
Same,
but, yeah. So that's the other side of the coin right there. But what I will say is, man, this thing feels like a dream, and I have literally heard 0 people talk about this weapon in a negative light. It just feels amazing, and they've done, the weapon team as usual has done another incredible job. Yeah, and I'll double down on that and say, as I said at the beginning, that I haven't loved the weapon this much since that Farewell sidearm, and the reason why is threefold. It's got that scaler, that fast cascade point scaler that makes it
more valuable to have that perk on. It's got these strange interactions like gut shot, explosive payload, and all this weird stuff. That's just a bonus. But also it's a lightweight, so you're moving around the map faster. One of the only things in the game that can do that. And so I'm always on the hunt for lightweight weapons. This does that, and it's a scout that can be used as an SMG up close, basically, once you get a kill with another weapon, or long range if you need to fight a neutral game. So it has all these options and sides to it, and that's what makes it a must-have, and that's what makes it very, very unique. So go get one, like Tony said.
Please, please, please. And man, see how we could just talk about this thing forever? This is the last thing we're going to talk about, people. So we're almost done here. But, the fact that it's a lightweight, the fact that you end up getting, 1 to 2 mobility, like as you just equip the weapon, the fact that you're moving faster with it, I think it's really smart as well that if they're going to release a scout rifle like this, that is like him, this is the scout rifle right now, that it's a lightweight frame. So people are encouraged to be moving, to be running and gunning with it, as opposed to in the back of the map with it like a Jade Rabbit. And I'm not knocking folks that love Jade Rabbit. I'm just saying, if it's going to be the scout rifle of, a meta, I love the fact that it's a lightweight frame. And I think that's really just good intentional thinking about it. The last thing I'll say about it as well, it's a lightweight frame that ends up buffing your mobility stat, right? But which ends up giving you that strafe speed, and then you double down with moving target to get even faster strafe speed. Remember that moving target is presents like a scalar, right? It's a 2.5% reduced aim down sight movement speed penalty. So it's a scalar, so you can actually move beyond 10 mobility strafe speed because of moving target. It's similar to elemental capacitor on stasis, which is just an underrated perk for stasis, because you get a 5%. It's twice as much, a 5% reduced ADS movement speed penalty. But either way, on this weapon, you got a lightweight frame that buffs your mobility. And then on top of that, if we're speaking specifically about strafe speed, you've got moving target, which you can equip, which buffs your strafe speed even more when you're ADS. And that's just so cool. And like I said, it just seems like a lot of intention, a lot of thought went into the perks on this weapon to kind of double down on what it's good at and how it might fit into a meta that hopefully is more of a run and gun meta versus a passive play meta.
Yeah, I think you just nailed all the reasons why I doubled down on moving target versus Zen Moment with Cascade Point, because when I swap to it and I've got the faster ADS speed, it's a lightweight, I'm moving around faster, and I've got that 0.54 second time to kill potential. That's just so many things stacked together on me to make that weapon so powerful.
Exactly.
Well,
right there with you.
That brings us to a close of another show. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Destiny Massive Breakdowns, and be sure to reach out on social media and in the Discord for feedback, questions, or just to let us know what you thought about the episode. If you're using a role, I love when people tag us on Twitter and they're like, oh, I tried out this role you mentioned and I'm loving it. Like, that is so cool to see. So keep sending it our way.
Yeah, most definitely. Except for you people that are all, I swear to God, y'all troll me enough in stream in Twitch chat. All right. Look, don't do this, but also do this because I love it. I love y'all trolling me. You know what somebody just did? Somebody just tagged me in a literally 6 out of 5 Crisis Inverted. Ooh. I was happy for them. But also I was livid.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, oh my God. They're just like, hey Tony, and you know how they always present it, right? They always do this. Hey Tony, is this a good role? I don't know if this is a good role, bro. It might be, it might not be. I don't know anything about it, bro. I know you know it's a 6 out of 5, man. It didn't just have small bore on it. It also had fluted on it, bro. You're going to make me cry. Yo, keep sending it to us because we really do enjoy it, most definitely. Yeah. And so remember, you can also connect to all things DMB at DestinyMassiveBreakdowns.com, including Podcast versus Enemies, hosted by Court, Impetus, and Saint Caber, and Beneath Twin Suns, a Star Wars podcast hosted by Kit Kutcha and Mercules. Of course, it was May 4th yesterday, I believe, which, is a big Star Wars day. So definitely check them out over there. You'll find our social links and invite to join the conversation in the Discord, episodes new and old, the occasional guidepost, and more well-written resources right there. And so As the usual, the name is IllPhysics, aka Tony. If you did not previously know me, you can find me at IllPhysics on most of my socials, including Twitter, Twitch, the Discord, which is, my God, 2,700 plus people strong right now.
Nice.
People coming through for them labs, and on YouTube as well. Obviously, I haven't made a new video. No, I haven't, people. But it's there. It's there if you want to see it. So that's where you can find me.
And this has been Legoleflash. You can find me on YouTube and Twitter. Go check out some videos. I'll probably be covering some of these weapons with some examples there. Maybe I'll just post a Twitter video that's just Cascade Point going off for eternity because I have so many clips already. So thank you all for joining us on this one. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.